That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
All right, welcome back to Sci-Fi and Friends, episode number 65. A lot of stuff going on in the world. There's a war brewing. The economy is crashing. Cold. We have another winter freeze coming in. I was thinking about this because you and I live so close together.
I know.
And we had to brave it over here. And the roads are slick and snow's coming down. It's like we could have just gone to each other's houses.
Yeah, that would have been pretty ideal.
Right. Besides that, you know, life's going along as it does. So yeah, we'll just get to it. My guest today is the senior pastor of GraceCommunity Church in Riverton, Kansas. Please welcome Aaron Zustiak.
Welcome. Is that fair for me to do that? Welcome myself.
Of course, yeah. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Good to be here.
We've been talking a little bit, you know, like the pre-podcast conversations.
Yeah.
Which I'm always like, oh man, I wish we could just I wish I could just mic him up and then forget these big arms and stuff, because people, you know, I don't know, it doesn't get in the way, but it's like it's there.
Yeah, it's like being on stage.
Yeah.
Same thing where you get people that have a great conversation. You know, when you're sitting in a coffee shop or something like that, but you get them on stage, and all of a sudden it's like they forgot English.
Yeah. Did you ever have a trouble public speaking?
Yeah, I would say a little bit.
You'll have to. It'll be like, we'll pull that. You can move it anywhere you want.
Okay.
If it just sits like, yay.
Yep. Gotcha.
And like aim it at you. Perfect.
Word.
There you go. See, now you're here.
I know, right? Well, I wasn't sure if these were directional or like. I always tell people you got to chin the mic on stage.
Really?
With the
much.
With the SM58s, you gotta chin them. That way, it's always in the same spot.
The metal toppers.
Yeah. I had some. I mean, for anybody, public speaking is a learned skill. Like, even, I'm sure if you look back at some of your old podcasts, there are things that you just shake your head at now and you go, "Oh man, why did I say that?"
Of course.
You know, what was I thinking? And everybody has little tics that they have. You know,
like.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine that I used to give a hard time about that. He was my pastor for a while, or for about 3 years, and I used to keep a tally in my sermon notes of every time that he would say, you know, okay, and I don't remember what the other one was, but I'm going to pay for that one at some point, because I've told people about that, and then they're like, oh, I want to be watching you now.
Right. What are you have some tics that you know of?
Nobody's ever told me. They're either afraid of me, too kind, or they're not noticeable enough to really get in the way. But the thing that actually helped me the most was, as we were talking about earlier, was teaching. When I went from doing ministry to teaching every day and having to be a little bit creative on the fly to try to make the material interesting, because, I mean, it's a textbook.
Yeah.
And I like to keep the kids engaged, and so that was really challenging to try to help keep my brain fresh. And I'm speaking every day up in front of people, even though there was a small class. I think my biggest class was 12.
And that was high school?
I did middle school and high school, and it was a super small. Like, the first year I taught there was only 40 kids in the entire school.
What? Wait, where was this?
It's the Christian Learning Center in Fort Scott. It's it's a super small private Christian school, and they do cradle to cap. And my boys, it's one of my favorite times in my entire life.
That's awesome.
Honestly, because Wendy taught there and I taught there. They did class from, it was a longer day, but no classes on Fridays. And our boys were enrolled there, so we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We had a 3-day weekend every weekend.
As a family.
As a family, in my boys' like most developmental stage of their life. And so if I could ever have picked a time in my life to do it, that was the time.
That's awesome.
And so God was good to me that way. But that probably is where because I know there was a difference in my preaching even between before I taught and had to speak every day, and after, when I did my first sermon afterwards, and the guy came up to me and was super complimentary. And like, this is a guy that I respected his opinion.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, cool. You know?
That's good.
He's like, why aren't you preaching somewhere? And I'm like, well, that's a whole long story.
Where was that? That was your first sermon?
It was my first sermon after. So I did youth ministry. Well, I started out in senior ministry in Wagner, Oklahoma. And that was not a good experience. Like I was almost completely out because it was a bad deal. A lot of good people there, but it was a church that had been through a lot of hard times. It had grown to a good size. I mean, they owned a whole city block.
Oh wow!
In the middle of town, which was crazy. But
how big was the congregation?
When I got there, my first day, my first day of preaching, there were 18 people.
Okay.
And that included me,
right?
Wendy, Levi was newborn, my mom and dad, and my in-laws. Nice. So there were 11 people.
This is Thanksgiving dinner and church.
Yeah, right. So, and it grew while I was there, but it was really hard. I was really excited when I took it because the guy that had built the church was still there. He had come back. He's long retired, and he'd been doing ministry for 50 years. I thought, man, this would be great to get mentored by this guy and learn the ropes.
What was his name?
Yeah, I don't want to say.
Oh, yeah. Because this story doesn't end well.
He had a stroke.
Oh, no.
Like a month in.
Oh, no.
And he didn't ever fully recover.
Oh, bummer.
And there are things that he said that I know he would never would have said had that not happened.
Sure.
And part of the problem was they never really latched on to me as their leader, which honestly I was unfit. I was too young. I was way too green.
How old were you?
I was 22.
Okay.
So I was 23. But I had no business at that point, honestly, leading a church, even a small church. Really, I think that everybody should do associate ministry or some sort of internship before they go into leading.
Yeah, right.
I know I shouldn't have been. I'm sure there's other people that are smart enough and wise enough, but I mean, what's a 23-year-old going to tell a 60-year-old?
Right.
I didn't need nothing. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew the word. I had I loved my education from Ozark, but
I guess that's probably one of the benefits of being in that young green stage and leading the church is that you might come at the text in a different way than what they're kind of used to.
Yeah.
A different observation. But I totally get what you're saying. Like if you have a mentor or even like a team of mentors, like you're probably going to work out a little better. Like show you the ropes and we've done that before. I probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Hey, maybe you think about doing it this way and kind of thing. But instead it ended up being conflict where he was still on the board. And so anytime that I presented something that I thought would be helpful for us to do, even things like changing the front doors to glass doors instead of solid wood doors. I'm gonna use the name Bob.
Good old Bob. I know Bob.
They'd say, well, Bob, what do you think?
Wow. How many people are on that board?
4.
Oh, wow. And they just defer to him?
Every time.
Wow.
Every time. And I'm like, there was part of me that was offended, and some of that was my youth. Why I'm some.
Were you on the board too? No.
Well,
how's that work?
There I wasn't.
Yeah.
Here at Grace, the lead pastor is part of the elder board, which is appropriate. That's otherwise, what are you? Maybe an evangelist, but But I think it's appropriate for them as the leader of the church to be as part of the lead team, which is the elders.
But makes sense to me.
Yeah, all the time, man, it was just humiliating in some ways.
Sure.
Every time I'd say something, they'd go, well, that's his name.
I can beep it out.
Yeah. What do you think? And that was hard.
Yeah.
So I was out, and then I took a ministry up in Fort Scott. Did youth ministry for a while and loved that. Resigned from that position and taught at the school. And it was while I was there that I did that sermon at the church that I was attending with my friend that did all the tick marks in his sermon.
Yeah.
And he was great. He's a cherished friend, and we joked about it quite a bit. He had a good heart about it. But that was where I felt called back in. Felt like God really wanted me to do ministry again, and that's when I ended up here.
Was that always a pull for you, is to do ministry? Like, did you want to be an astronaut, firefighter, and a pastor?
Yeah.
Or
I had no desire to be a pastor.
When you were younger?
Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what did you want to be?
Rich.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that too. I'm right there with you, because if you ask my brother and my cousin, we had a club named CCJ, Colton, Casey, Jesse.
Yeah.
Every scheme that we did was to make money. Like, we started a petting zoo because we had turtles and skinks and stuff, and we charged my grandparents like $5 to come in.
That's awesome.
And to pet these animals. But yeah, we were always, so I mean, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I have zero problem believing that.
Right.
You're always wheeling, dealing somebody.
Right. Well, I feel bad with my grandparents. It's probably their turtles.
Yeah. The grandparents do, though, man. They love you that way.
Yeah.
They take all that abuse and smile.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They acted like they liked it, you know.
Yeah.
They thought it was cool.
No, the thing for me was while I was going to high school, I got my associate's degree in graphic arts. Okay. And because during I don't know if it was a career fair or something, I found out that the guy, this is dating me right now, pop cans used to all just be just the logo, nothing else. So Pepsi cans, it was it said Pepsi and the circle. Coke was Coke and swoosh. And one year they came out with what they called Pepsi Cool Cans.
Cool Cans? Cool
Cans. Oh. And there were 5 different designs. And all it was like a snowman and a Santa Claus and different stuff.
These? Oops. I'm not going to buy them like these.
Might be. Yeah. Those might, no, not
like
those
next
ones.
gen.
Yeah, I think it might have been those ones. Because I was thinking it was the ones that had... yeah, I bet that's probably it. So
that's like retro.
I had somewhere I found that guy made $300,000 for those designs.
Oh wow.
That one project.
Yeah.
I was like, 4 pieces of art, man.
Yeah.
Like, I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because ministry didn't pay anything.
Of course.
I mean, it's a poor man's gig, and it was one of those things where I didn't want that for my kids, and it was really attractive to me to make a lot of money.
Right.
And so when I say what I wanted to be, I didn't care really. I wanted to be rich. You know, I had the 2 things that I wanted. I wanted to do architecture, or I wanted to be a commercial artist. One of those 2. And I took architecture classes and drafting classes in high school, and I designed my own house, and nice. I built scale models of them and stuff like that, and I loved it.
Yeah, is that how your mind works? Is in that sort of CAD like 3D structure?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I'm very visual, and my brain's constantly visualizing things, and I'm a dreamer, man. I'm out there all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of journals that you go through that you were saying. It's
I got a few.
It's just a constant download of ideas and.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, it's hard for me. You know, I don't know that I would say I'm necessarily ADD or ADHD, either one of those, but I do have to focus myself at times when I'm working on things. Like I have a little egg timer that I rack. I work in 15-minute increments.
Okay.
Because if
Cal Newport, you go deep work?
Nope.
No. He talks about deep work, do an hour and a half, 90-minute spells.
Yeah.
And then you can break them down to 15 minutes, and
cool. Yeah.
You'd enjoy that book.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah. I'll have to write it down here in a minute. But yeah, that's what I do. I do 15 minutes, and I can, whatever I'm doing, I'll rack it if I want. I can rack another 15.
Sure.
And but what I do is while I'm working on that. When I go, oh man, I need to check my email real quick. See if I got that. No.
Right. Yeah.
But after 15 minutes, when timer goes off, then I can do that. And my brain needs that kind of focus sometimes if I'm working on some stuff that's important.
Right.
And then when it's 15 minutes over, I can do whatever I want in the next 15 minutes. I can check my emails or go take a walk or doesn't matter to me. But yeah, my brain's constantly firing on different ideas, and it is very creative. I love. It's hard for me sometimes because people like structure, and I like change.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
That's a struggle for me sometimes, is because I get bored with stuff pretty quick, and I like variety. So much so that like my wife laughs because she knows, don't ask me what, like if she's gonna go get me a drink, she knows not to ask because I don't care. I'll drink this. Yeah. I'm not Dr. Pepper every time, you know.
Whoa.
She can bring me whatever thing is there, and I will be fine with it.
And you said that in the coffee shop earlier about your Americano. You're like, there's not a lot of things I do consistently or order consistently, but Americano is kind of one of those things.
Yeah, it's kind of
very interesting.
Yeah, I'm constant. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you stick? I mean, I guess just being dedicated to change, you know, is kind of the one consistent thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few things. Like I do like the wrap at Chick-fil-A. Like I will get that most of the time. There's a few other food items, but seriously not very much. I mean I'm out there on all that stuff.
That's really interesting though. It's like it matches who you are, you know, as far as like the energy that you give off, especially from how I know you, which is I first met you as a youth pastor, I believe. So like, I always consider youth pastors, Bonner, looking at you, and Bobby DeBusk. They have like this energy that has to match the the younger person's energy. Right. And you and those guys all have that sort of vibe. And you still do. Bonner does. Bobby, I haven't seen for a while, but they give off that energy and they match it. And I think that's definitely fits like your character. Yeah,
and Bobby I don't know very much, very well. I've only met him a couple times, but yeah, Nick, man, you get around Nick and you can't help but like I think everybody's blood pressure goes up just a little bit, not in a bad way, but because like the dude's got so much energy and he's amped up and
there's always a project going on. There's always like, hey, I read this, or I watched this, or he's always wanting to talk. Sometimes like we went down for Sandra's 40th birthday. He just like fired off a question in the middle of dinner, like some I don't even remember what it was, some philosophical deep question, like, dude, I'm trying to eat my taco. Like what are but here's my thought, you know? Yeah, right. Yeah, he's like that.
Yeah, he knew you'd take the bait.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was good, but yeah, I think that's it fits your character really well. Which, you know, it's interesting to hear a little bit of your backstory, and then like where you are now, and it's like you're kind of playing your role as the changer, like the energy that changes for good.
Gotcha. Yeah,
the renewal energy, maybe. You know?
Yeah. A lot of the books I've been reading lately. On some of them are on change, and I mean I've just been filling my brain with how to lead and stuff like that. And some of it talks about tradition and how sometimes tradition kills, it stifles. Right. And there's value with tradition. One of the things that one of the lines that stuck with me is it's dangerous to try to live in the past because we can't live in the past, but we can learn from it. And the idea of there's wisdom in things that we've done in the past, but we can't keep doing all of the same things that we used to do the way we used to do them. And part of that is people forget that the things that we used to do at one point, and most likely when they were most successful, is when they were new. Those were new ideas at that point. And because they were new, they had all this energy that they brought with them, and people were excited about it. They were like, you know, what's going to happen? Where's this going to go? And you know.
Or there could be a lot of pushback too, like, no, this is not good. You know, we need to stick with the older stuff. You know,
right? And that's the part where it stifles is when we're like, no, we've never done it that way. Or, man, it was really good when we used to do it this other way. Yeah. You know, those kinds of things can be stifling. Yeah. And it's a part of leadership is figuring out which things that you can change and which ones that you can't, or that you have to change very gradually. Right. And I was talking with my staff this morning at a staff meeting about what I think is one of the hardest parts of leadership, which is, it comes from I don't remember if, I think the book was Purple Cow, but I don't remember. Nice. But Dad and I were talking about this illustration one time that I think it was Lay's did a survey where they asked people what kind of chips they liked the best. Yeah. And they had several different qualifiers, like, do you like lightly salted, regular salted, or heavily salted.
Right.
And what did everybody say?
Probably heavily salted.
No, everybody said lightly salted. Everybody, you know, and
I'm the psychopath that likes heavily salted.
Lightly oiled. Oh, you'll like this. Whereas it's lightly oiled, medium oiled, or heavily oiled. And everybody's
lightly oiled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because everybody wants to be healthy.
Okay, I see.
That.
Yeah,
but
I'm honest with myself.
Right. Yeah, I know. Right. Yeah, and pour extra on.
Right. It's terrible.
And when they did the taste test,
of course,
heavily salted, just dripping was what the strong majority wanted, and some of it's people are, self-deluded. Sometimes is some of that they. Or in denial. But some of it is what part of the role of leadership is to know what the people want more than they know themselves. And that's hard. Especially when sometimes that's where that pushback comes from, is they think they want this,
right,
or that this is what they need. But what they really need is this. And when you give them this, then they go, oh, okay, I like this. This is good. This is beneficial. I'm in. But when you were first presenting it, they're like, no, I want this.
Yeah, right.
I don't want that. And so attached to that is the ability to be able to navigate leading them into this thing that in their mind they don't want, but in their heart they do.
Right.
And
wow.
Sometimes even just being able to lead them there when they're actively rebelling or resisting, and a lot of times once you get them there, they go, oh, this is good.
Yeah, right.
So that's one of the big challenges with leadership, and is navigating some of that stuff. But
it makes me think of, and I'm not correlating this in any way, it just makes me think of disciplining a child, and not even disciplining a child, just giving a child limitations, and they really rebel against that, and really, deep down, a kid looking up to his father or his mother or the parents as one, they want that limitation to know, like, oh, I can't go beyond that because they said I couldn't, or if I did go past that one time and I got I got spanked or whatever. Right. And if you don't give it to them, well, you see what happens is, they don't have any structure in their life. They have no discipline, or rarely they do, It's very tough for a child or for a young person if they don't have that sort of boundary and disciplines. That's kind of what makes me think of is, like, you want this, but you don't want it. Yeah. And if you didn't have it, you'd want it.
And the reality, you're spot on with that, because the reality is they need it, and they do crave boundaries. Right. Because there's safety in knowing that there are boundaries, because it's a hard line that now okay, this is where I can go, where I can't go. If you don't have any of that, it's a little bit unnerving.
It's disorienting.
Yes.
Right? You don't really know how to move through the space.
Right,
because am I in danger or am I okay? Yeah. I have no idea.
Am I moving at all?
Am I moving? Yeah, which is really kind of like almost interstellar type, like what dimension are we in right now? Like,
it makes my brain goes to disc golf. Because the hardest holes in the world to me are the ones that are out in an open field with no trees or anything around them, even though the sign says 290 feet.
Right.
That's the hardest hole to throw.
Nothing to reference it and be like, this is how far, this is the
angle. That tree looks like it's 180. So
yeah, right.
I don't know.
I know how big trees usually are,
My brain has a hard time. Maybe other people aren't that way, but my brain hates wide open, nothing around it shots.
It makes me think of the Matrix. The first time they drop Neo in, it's just a chair, Morpheus, and infinite white,
Yeah,
right. And they're like, whoa, what's going on? Then the guns come in and whatever else they bring in, but like that sort of reality.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Adam Ayers?
A little bit. Wes's friend.
Yeah. They're like co-mentors, kind of. Like, I never really knew who was in charge. Yeah. It was always kind of like, now he's taking the lead. But I think it's Adam's Discipleship, the very first lesson that he talks about is that we live in a reality of I guess it's reference. I'm drawing a blank on the actual word. A reality of, not comparison, but like of reference. And everything that you've ever come into contact with is like part of your worldview, and it's structured in this way. And things like day by day, things, they rearrange themselves slightly, but then you have something big happen. Like his example was your favorite food in the world is tacos, and your mother passes away. Like your favorite food is not the same anymore because it gets rearranged in this whole worldview, because this big gap is now a void, and now everything rearranges itself. And it made me think of the limitations and the actual worldview of people. And like you said about your sons, when you were working at the school, that's such a formative time in someone's life. And a lot of times that's when those things are issued into your worldview, and they're nothing's permanent, but they are pretty solid, you know? Yeah. And it's hard to rearrange them sometimes without some sort of absolutely momentous event, you know, whether it's whatever.
Yeah, that makes me think about, because you talked about a mom dying. Excuse me. Whenever somebody has somebody that they care about pass away, one of the conversations that I always have with them is, first of all, that grieving is appropriate. Like you have to grieve. But I explained to them that one of the things that you're grieving is you haven't just lost this person, you've literally lost a part of yourself, because like who you are with Kelsey, there is not a soul on this planet that brings the same things out of you that Kelsey does. You know, if you know, God forbid that Kelsey gets hit by a truck and you get back in the dating field at some point and find somebody, that is never going to be the same. Right. And that Colt is gone with Kelsey, because she's the only person that can bring that part of you. There'll be people that might bring similar things out. Right. But nobody brings things out of you that she does. Right. The same way that she does. And there are things that you think about because of her, and only because of her, and things that you do because of her and only because of her. So if you were to ever lose her, you are literally losing a part of yourself with her. And so you're grieving not only the loss of her, but you're grieving the loss of part of yourself that you will never get back. Right. Ever. Yeah. And that's hard. And I think that goes along with what you're talking about. What Adam's talking about, that it creates this void that can't ever be replaced. And so the rest of your life has to rearrange around that and figure out how to operate and how to work. And you know, now where do all these pieces fit? Because they were all originally connected this way. Yes. And now this thing and this thing that were connected, now they're not connected anymore. How do they relate? Yes. Yeah. That's what a relational universe. Yeah. Because everything is relational, and one of the examples is like, well, how tall would you be in a universe by yourself? Right. Infinitely tall, infinitely short. Right. You know, like there's no reference, like your disc golf thing, there's no reference point. And now we'll put you and this cup in this universe. Like, well, you're 17 cups tall, and this is, you know, 1/17 of an Aaron. Right. Yeah. And then you add in a palm tree. And also, if you're just you and the cup, you're the biggest thing in the universe. And that's the smallest thing in the universe. Yeah. But then you keep adding things into the reality that we are in now. Yeah. And then you get that relational thing. And that's I definitely can see how, I don't know if there's a name for it. I think there's a name for it. Like when one partner passes away and the other one passes pretty soon afterwards. Bro, I can totally see why that would happen, especially if you have a really deep connection with someone like a spouse or a partner. Right. There's so much lost of you that it's just like, well, that's it. Yeah, I'm gone too. Yeah. There's just not that much left of me to even. It's almost like a tree. Like if you can cut part of a tree down, it'll grow and it'll actually prosper and be a super big, healthy tree. But at some point you cut so much, it just can't make it. Right. Yep. Yeah. A funny thing, I don't know why my brain, just like we were talking about with other people, like your brain, my brain with you fires in different ways than it fires with other people too. Yeah. Because that's like the whole energy thing, right? Like just man. Like the auras. Yeah, man. You know, all joking aside, really, it's like some sort of weird. Yeah. I don't know. when we're talking and we're hanging out,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about mowing or like
I'm dying to talk about mowing.
Sorry to disappoint. Man.
I got the Honey Badger 554. It's diesel run. It's got a 54-inch cut.
Well, you didn't look at that. Well, just look at it.
I do the diamond cut design.
Yeah. That's the worst part is we could talk about that, the two of us.
Yeah.
But no, my brain gets into all philosophical mode and because I know you like deep stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and so where my mind was going on that when you were talking was, and some of it is just because my brain just is constantly going all over the place and firing weird places. But
I like it.
I remember when you were talking about the relationship between the cup and me and somebody at one point. I wish I could quote who it was.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where I got it. I'd get so many sources. But he was talking about how space, time, and matter, all three had to be created at the same time because you can't have one without the other, really. Because you can't have matter without space.
Yeah, because matter has to have some space to take up.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
But you also can't have matter without time, because once there is matter, but there is no time without matter. Like if it is just the cup and not something that exists, is there really time? Because time really is just measurement of movement.
I was going to say it would depend on if the cup moved or not.
Right.
If it just sat there, I guess there still could be time, but I don't know.
But is there really? Because it is, because time is movement, really.
Right.
And if there's no movement, and so if there's just matter but no space, then there's no movement, because in order for there to be movement, matter has to have space to move in.
Right, right.
And so in order for there to be time, there has to be matter and space. And so they all three are kind of dependent on one another to exist.
Right.
And it's that relative nature of all of those things all play together. And there's a whole lot of rabbit hole to go on.
Oh, I know. I'm looking over the edge like, oh man, are we about to jump off this?
No, let's not.
Because I'm pushing you off. Because I think there's so many different levels to that whole thing. Because there's actually like the physical kind of where we're talking about, but then there's also what I think of as the relational, where like I didn't have a choice to be born first. Right. And I didn't have a choice to be a son. I didn't have a choice, but I'm in these roles automatically, in relation, in the reality. Bear with me here. I'm getting it out.
I'm traveling.
In the reality, with time, with space, and with matter, moving through basically my life or this existence. And there's no choice in it for me, really, besides like, oh, here's my hand that I'm dealt, and now I'm moving through and interacting with these people. And I have no idea where I was going with that, but I just saw some similarities there as far as like roles that people play, which makes me think about the role, kind of what you were saying. I like change.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, to me, from what I've heard already, it's like that's the energy, that's the role that you've been playing throughout your life.
Yeah, that brought back around full circle. That's where this all started.
A little circle, but
yeah, that's kind of the role that I'm at is looking at all the different ways to change and to bring people from where they are to where they need to be or where they can be. Dream a little bit, but also help people understand. We can't stay where we are.
Right.
There has to be the line that if you're not growing, you're dying, and there's a lot of truth to that. We need to be constantly reminded that, and it's so easy to get comfortable where we are.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just need somebody to kick us in the pants so we set some new goals. And, I mean, like lifting or with your jiu-jitsu stuff, like it'd be easy just to go, I know what I want to know, but you got somebody that's pushing you to no, let's keep growing and learning, and here's some new moves that you need to. I can't do those, not yet.
Yeah,
but it gives you some targets to search for and to shoot for, and
How do you do that for yourself? Since you're in a position to lead a group of people and individuals, do you treat yourself differently as far as pushing yourself and goal setting, or is it difficult to look at your own path and ask yourself am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can see other people's like, if you just did this, you'd be good to go.
Yeah.
And then I do that all the time, and I'm like, why can't I figure out my own freaking problems?
Yeah. One of the things for me, I guess there's two main things for me. One, my favorite relationships in my life, I've got a few people that they know what I need from them and what I want from them is speak to me honestly. I've always had some of those people in my life. I think those are the most beneficial. Like, you need people that are always going to be there and love you and give you all the grace, no matter what you do. Oh man, you're awesome. I love you. And you're like, I'm an idiot for what I just did. Don't tell me that. Like, I know I'm an idiot for what I just did.
Right.
I totally dropped the ball. But you also need truth tellers who, like, they're not harsh, but they're not going to pull punches either. Going back to jiu-jitsu, it's the same way. You don't want somebody to teach you jiu-jitsu that's going to go super light on you and super easy. You want them to push you and punish you and make you regret that mistake.
Here's your weakness.
Yeah.
And if I didn't do it, this guy's going to tear your arm off.
Exactly. And he's not going to be as nice about it at the end.
Right.
And so that's one thing, is I have a few people in my life that I really appreciate, and they know they have full license. When they see gaps, tell me where my gaps are. That's one of my that's one of my favorite wedding service illustrations. It comes from Rocky Balboa. Whoever uses a Rocky illustration in a wedding,
like the boxer?
Yes. At one point, he goes to pick up Polly, and not Polly. Polly's the brother. Adrian. He has to pick up Adrian. I'm totally blinked out there. He has to pick up Adrian, and she's not ready yet, and so Polly's just making fun of him, like, what do you see in her? She's nothing to look at. Yeah. Polly's just being a jerk brother to her because he's a drunk and just a bad brother. And Rocky goes, I don't know. She got gaps. I got gaps. Together we just fill gaps.
That's wow.
It's pretty
good.
It's
actually profound. Actually.
Isn't it?
It's like
in Rocky.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I need people to tell me where my gaps are, because we all have blinders on, and we all have blind spots that we don't see. And so I do my best when I'm told those things to listen to it and to hear it. Nobody goes, oh, awesome, great, thanks for pointing out that flaw.
Psychopath, dude.
Right, yeah. Nobody's
no, it hurts.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I wish you wouldn't have said that.
Yeah. I liken it to one of the proverbs that people quote a lot is, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another.
Yeah. It's a good one.
It's a good one, but people misunderstand it.
Oh.
A lot. Well, how does metal sharpen metal?
It's shaving off that edge.
Right. That's not a gentle process.
Oh, yeah.
That's not friendly.
Right.
That's harsh.
Like
there's two ways that metal sharpens metal. One is you have a blacksmith's hammer that takes something that isn't sharp and it pounds on it and pounds on it
when
and gets
it's really freaking hot.
Right. But it just beats it into being somewhat sharp. And then you have a hone, which doesn't really, technically a hone doesn't sharpen it. It straightens. But if you want to really get down that black hole, we can go down that one too. But
all the blacksmiths in my fan base are he knows.
But the idea of it is that people do this with the knives because, exactly what you said, it's shaving off parts that don't need to be there and removing parts of it, and that's not a gentle, comfortable process. Like it's being removed from you.
That's really interesting because I've never thought about that.
Right.
I've always been like, I don't know, like, this guy's nice.
He's my bro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always got a warm feeling from that scripture.
Exactly.
Not what you're describing.
I know.
But now that you say it, it's like, oh yeah, that's exactly right.
But you also track with that idea too, though, because you appreciate those people in your life too.
Absolutely.
Who are they're gonna shave off the parts that don't belong. Then I'm the best instrument I can be. And so that's one thing that I do. And I have that both in people and also in resources. I read a lot of books, and I try to read them. And I read stuff that's not stuff that I know I'm going to like. Like I've got on my desk right now, I've got God Delusion to read, which I haven't read yet, but it's on my stack to read.
Who? Dawkins? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We didn't expect me to read that one, but
well,
but it's wise for me to read that.
I actually would, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but that's because you know me.
Well, I mean, like, I would respect someone in your position that actually engaged in that sort of stuff. Like, I know you're not reading it because you agree with it.
Right.
You're reading it to like enlighten yourself and to understand what he and they are saying, and
right.
It just broadens your entire look.
Well,
I wouldn't like freak out if I walked in on your office and it's like, what is this?
Yeah,
I'd be like,
you hypocrite.
No, I'd be like, no, you're good.
No,
you're good.
But I also want it because, what if he's right?
Yeah.
I don't think that he is, but if what if there's something that he highlights and I go, oh man, I hadn't thought about it that way. I have to evaluate that. And so very little of my reading is that way, but I do pick some of that stuff up. Or even theologically, I'll read somebody that has a different theological viewpoint than I do, because it for me, that's iron sharpening iron, but it's a relationship I don't have, but I still consider them a mentor. And so those are a couple of the ways that I do it. And then really a third one that I try not to ask anybody to do anything that I'm already not doing. And it's like I have some things I'm going to be asking the congregation to do here before too long, but I'm doing it myself right now to see how hard it is. First of all, am I over asking? Like, it's easy to ask people to do things, and you don't. But I'm just pointing fingers and saying, "Hey, you guys would go do all this stuff."
Mush.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And if I have a hard time doing it, maybe I need to reevaluate or change it or modify it somehow. And so that's something else that I do is I apply it to myself first, as much as I possibly can, and that keeps me honest a little bit and keeps me from getting a big head and
enlightened. You can offer advice, and like you said, if it's too vigorous or if it's not challenging enough, like you kind of know, know the ropes. You can offer, like I said, guidance and advice if you're asking other people to go along.
Right.
Man, I'm tripping out to this. Like, when you broke that scripture down, it made me think, like, it's not a pleasant experience for the steel or the metal.
Right.
So many people, including myself, that come into contact with people that rough me up, even if they're a stranger or like a person like Dawkins that you're reading. It's that feeling, it's that discomfort.
Yeah. That
is the actual iron on iron. And most of the time we repel that. We say like, no, I don't want that. Like, I need something that's going to give me the big cotton ball. Give me that pillow,
Right. Yeah.
Give me the warm towel, like not this iron, but that feeling of that discomfort of feeling the same with jiu-jitsu is if someone's on top of you, it's definitely not comfortable, but it's information. It's speaking to you in some way, and if you want to become better, you can accept that message and take it in and incorporate into who you are and make yourself better. Yeah. It's that's one of those things where I think, going back to what we were talking about way earlier, I think that falls into the category of the chips. I think more people want that than realize it. Want that truth in their life. Yeah. But it's uncomfortable, and at first people bristle at it. Yeah. When you start stepping on toes, but then I think when people reflect on it, they go, "Man, I'm really glad that he said that or she said that." Most of the time, I when you hear those stories, that's about what they say. I can't really think of one where I'm like, that didn't turn out good, Yeah, even in just like mundane or physical things, not just like, I don't know very many people who had a coach that was really hard on them. They're like, I hate that coach. Yeah. There are some. Right. But most people I know, when they look back, they go, I'm really glad my coach made me run those extra laps. Exactly. Or that teacher that was super hard. Like, I have a teacher that I changed classes. I regret it. Oh. It was an AP class, and I knew the load was going to be pretty heavy, and I had some other classes, like my drafting class that I wanted to take, some of that stuff. Once I got out, though,
I thought, man, I really wish I'd taken her class, because her class was awesome. She's a great history teacher.
Yeah.
And I think most people appreciate it later. We just don't have the foresight to pursue that, or to recognize it early enough. I just basically what I do. I'm committed to stifling my feelings when I'm receiving it. And I'm about as stoic and as I can be, and I will say, I appreciate that. I'll think, I have to think about it, and I don't respond. I try not to defend myself or explain anything. I'm not always great at that. That slips through sometimes. It's it's hard, man. It's hard.
Oh yeah.
But I think most people do crave that and want that more so than they realize, and they appreciate those people in their life a lot.
Oh, no doubt.
Who are willing to do that, because no growth without struggle. That's where all the real meaningful growth that happens in our life happens through struggle.
Right.
And we need those people to push on us. So.
Yeah. I always I got a couple friends that take steroids, and man, they look awesome. Like awesome.
Yeah.
But I was talking to Kelsey one time. I'm like, listen, this what they're doing is they're bypassing all the good stuff, like the grind of getting up early or staying up late, working that one muscle over and over and nothing's happening. And they're not addressing the real issue. Like, I don't mean to call it an issue, but they're not addressing the true, whatever they're trying to address, because they're just jumping to the end.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, if you want to build a house, well, maybe that's not a very good one, but like you just have someone build your house and it's good to go. But if you were to put the time and the days and the effort into it, it's going to hold a whole new meaning to you.
Yeah.
So something about truth, right?
Yeah.
With those people, like something about innate to people that like they just know truth, right? Okay.
Yeah. They know it's false.
Right.
They're not. I think part of the addiction to some of those things is they know they didn't get there legitimately, and man, there's something in the back of their brain that just keeps saying,
right,
this isn't, you don't really have it. It's not really you. You cheated. Yeah. And like I don't mind losing. Like nobody likes it. Yeah. Let me rephrase that. Nobody likes losing. I don't mind getting beat. Yeah. Because if somebody beats me, right, I made them earn it. Yeah. I don't ever go halfway. Like I did everything that I knew to do to win. So that means that they were better than me. I don't want anybody to ever be better than me at anything, because I'm a competitor. But if I get beat, if I gave it my all, I have nothing to worry about. Like I have no shame in that. Right. There's always going to be somebody better than you. Sometimes it's, somebody's taller or just got better physical tools, or they've got better training, or they're more disciplined. Like there's all sorts of reasons why somebody can beat you. And but I know that I've done the very best that I'm capable of doing. Right. I have no shame in getting beaten by somebody. Yeah. And I don't have any trouble telling them, man, great job, you clobbered me. Yeah. They deserve that respect from me, in my opinion, and I'm happy to give that out because they've earned it. But if I cheat and I win, I have no respect for myself. Right. I know people that don't have any issues with that, but even in sports, like when I'm coaching the soccer team and stuff like that, yeah, I don't want them pulling shirts. Right. Some people coach their teams to do that, pull them, take them out, and cheap shots and stuff like that. Little tricks and stuff. And that's I know that's a personal thing. I'm not really judging people necessarily on that. For me, if I told my kids to do that, we got beat. Well, even if the score doesn't reveal it, that's what I was going to say. We got beat because we had to resort to cheating to do it, and it's that victory is going to feel false, and it's going to leave a bad taste in my mouth because I know this does not reflect the truth. Yeah, they were better and they beat me. Right, legitimately were beating me, and so I had to cheat. Yeah, I had to bend reality. Yeah, and the rules. So I think for me, that's what I would feel if I did steroids and got this great physique, and it wouldn't feel like I would never be satisfied by that. Well, and they aren't. Right. And just as I talk to them, it's like, you haven't, I don't know if it's
connected to your physique, how your self-image, or if it's a father wound, or I have no idea.
Right. Yeah.
But you have not addressed it. You look awesome.
Yeah.
You haven't addressed it.
But they don't. But they probably don't. I just can't imagine that they feel that awesome about it.
Probably not. No. Probably. I doubt it.
And maybe they could. Maybe they can. Maybe they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. Thank goodness not everybody's wired the way I am.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But in my head, I have a hard time seeing them feeling satisfied with how they look versus somebody else that is putting in the grind
Mm-hmm.
and isn't satisfied necessarily whether they are, but it's a different type of dissatisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
I think, because you still feel you're still successful,
Mm-hmm. knowing
that this is the best I can do right now.
Yeah.
This is, and I'm climbing, and I'm putting in the work, and there is satisfaction in the work.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were talking about, the grind of pushing through and getting up early and
Yep.
hitting those extra reps, and there's a lot of satisfaction in that, even if I'm not getting all the results that I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I know at some point they're going to show up.
Right. Well, and it's too much of a focus on the outcome for one,
Mm-hmm.
and they just in this example, you could apply this to whatever, but in the example, they devalue all the other extra stuff that comes with this pursuit.
Yeah.
So they focus on like big muscles. Great. That is one part of the whole thing. The other part is you're building your discipline. The other part is that you are, overcoming things that, oh crap, my diet sucks,
Right.
and maybe you wouldn't have never been able to address that until you're in that momentum of like, lifting weights, and you're like, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't want to eat ice cream today. I want to eat some chicken. Like you got to have that momentum behind that. And they don't address, or they miss out on all that good stuff.
Right.
They miss out on maybe mentorship of a younger person, or, inspiring an older person to get in shape. There's just so much under the surface where there's like, I want to get big, boom, done. Like, well, you did that. So I hope you like it.
Well, and there's the dissatisfaction. I've only known a couple guys that
Mm-hmm.
are shooting, and man, it didn't take any time at all when they got off.
Sure.
Man, they just deflated like crazy.
Yep.
I mean, just shockingly so.
And now we're back to where we started.
Yeah.
And nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Internally.
You didn't get any gain at all. Whereas somebody else who went through all the work and maybe didn't get as swole, even though you start getting the dad bod and stuff like that, but all the other side benefits that you're talking about still exist. Where
Exactly.
they didn't lose everything. When they stopped. So.
Right. There's a lot more treasure to be had than just the outcome of a physical physique. And this is the same with soccer. If your team gets beat because the other team is better, that's going to leave a bad feeling in these kids. And it's like, well, do we want that to happen again?
Right.
No. So guess what?
Work harder.
We're going to work harder. Right.
Yeah.
Like we're going to run a little bit more. We're going to kick 10 more goals for our drill or whatever you guys do. But that probably wouldn't have come about if, the shirt yanking would have been going on. It's like, we won state or whatever, the championship. And then there's nothing to push you there. And it's like, wow, this is it, huh?
Right.
This doesn't taste very good, or this doesn't feel that good.
It'd be so unsatisfying for me. Yeah. And there's part of me for there's a pretty strong justice gene that runs in my family.
Yeah.
It would also hate it that I stole that from somebody else who deserved it.
Yeah.
Like it'd leave a bad taste in my mouth.
It would make me wonder, like, why do you want to win so bad? What are you dealing with, bro?
Yeah, it's not really winning at all in my mind. I'm out on that. It doesn't bother some people, and that's up to them. And I don't know, but that's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah, that's good. It's as Jordan Peterson says, it's not if you win or lose, it's how you play the game.
I love Peterson.
Oh, I was wondering if you were a fan.
Dude, I love him. I'm doing his personality.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Course right now. Shelled out the $90 for it, and I'm
nice.
I've only done the first lesson so far, but I'm in the.
You like it thus far?
Yeah. The thing that got me interested in it mostly was, well, one of them, ironically, was that question just a little while ago. Was had somebody make a comment about my personality, and I thought, well, I've done all these other personality profiles. I'm trained in the Taylor Johnson, and I've done the Myers-Briggs, and I thought, well, man, I love Peterson, and he's got one, and that was actually part of it.
Nice.
I just decided, well, that's a way to get an outside perspective and see, like, is there any validity to what this criticism that this person.
Oh, it was a criticism on your personality.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it hurt too. I was like, man,
Interesting.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
But well, let's look.
Yeah.
And so that's why I started it.
Cool.
And I'm a huge fan of Peterson's, and his part where he talks about, I remember watching a video where he talked about women in the workforce and the wage gap and stuff. And he talked about how primarily, in his opinion, it's because of, I'm trying to remember the terms he uses right now. Just drew a blank.
Chaos and order.
No. It's what is the word? It's about being it's about pushing for what you want.
Oh, assertiveness, like the assertive.
Yeah,
like,
there's a specific word that he uses. Agreeableness.
Oh yeah, women are more
agreeable, and men tend to be more disagreeable. And disagreeable isn't a bad quality, and agreeable isn't a bad quality either. Neither one of them are bad. But if you are too agreeable, you're a people pleaser, and you yield constantly to other people because you like peace.
Right.
And women tend, as a general rule, women tend to be more agreeable. They tend to be appeasers, and they want to keep the peace, whereas men tend to be more pushy, and they push for what they want.
Right.
Like, no, I want this raise.
Yeah.
No, I want this price. No, I want
Exactly.
And as a general rule, that's how men are, and that's how women are, and that's why his argument is that's why the wage gap is different, is because men will push for what they're worth, or sometimes what they're not worth, but what they want.
Sure.
And women tend to not do that. They're like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Because they're in one way, you can say it's nice. They're nicer.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you are too disagreeable, you're a bully and a jerk, and you're prideful.
Right.
If you're too agreeable, you're a pushover, and you're. I love the way that he describes it. It's like we need everybody to be kind of in the middle.
Exactly.
Because it's like he says it's like being colorblind. Like, everybody can only see the world. I love this perspective. Everybody can only see the world in one color. It's the only way that we can see it is through that filter, because we don't have the ability, because the way our personality is, that's the only way that we can understand the world, because our personality is wired this way. So we see things that other people don't see, but we don't see things other people do. And so what we need other people who see the other colors, so that we can get a full spectrum understanding of how the world operates and what it looks like. Otherwise, we have a very narrow view. We are literally, in his mind, looking at the world through blinders.
Yeah.
And so we need other people's perspectives.
Yeah.
So if I'm constantly disagreeable, I'm missing out on all of these other perspectives.
Yeah.
I'm depriving myself of a fuller understanding of the world. And if this person is always agreeable, we're never getting their color. They are depriving us of their color. We need them to assert themselves sometimes and say, no, this is what I see, because they have their opinion and their viewpoint is valuable.
Right.
And so if I'm bullying everybody into my viewpoint, then that's the only color anybody's going to see, or get to talk about or get to see.
Right.
But if this person never asserts themselves, we're also equally deprived of color, because they're not putting it out there.
Yeah.
And so what we need everybody to be kind of in the middle and find some common ground where we're giving, but we're also receiving.
Right.
And we need to draw that out of some people and back some people off. And so, that's part of this whole class that he's got.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love it. I dig it a lot. Time.
Yeah. I've considered doing it too. $90 was like,
I know.
I mean, that's a chunk of change for me. And there's so much free information on Peterson already. So it's like,
I know.
Man, but yeah, I'll probably do it one of these days.
Yeah.
Did you do his future author his self-authoring stuff? Self-authoring suites?
That I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't done the personality one, but I've done the self-authoring, which is more, it's more text-based where you input. So it pops up on a screen and it'll say, I did the future authoring one. So it was like, what do you think your strengths are? You write for 15 minutes, just write out. And then you go through, it probably takes 2 hours to do, and then he gives you this whole breakdown.
Yeah.
And it's nice and laid out, and you can say, here's 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, here's the strengths, here's what he says the future to try to strive for, and here's the future to like definitely avoid.
Yeah.
And it helped shape. I'm pretty good at future planning and like vision, so it definitely helped me. I could see it helping people that weren't able to plan and like have a goal or a dream or something. I've always had one, so it's no big deal.
Right. Yeah.
But it definitely helped me organize my thoughts as far as like, you say you want to get way over there, but there's nothing in between. It's just like, wait, how do you get over there, you know?
Yeah.
So it helped me break down, but man, he's good,
He's
man.
the dude.
He's good.
Although he drives me crazy sometimes because he takes the long path to answer everything.
Oh, yeah. Very windy.
They'll ask him a pretty direct question, and he'll talk and go around this way, and he comes over here, and he
teleports in the corner.
and then he comes back, and then he comes around, and
It reminds me of a story.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm going, man, I have no idea how he's going to bring this back around.
I don't think he does.
And sometimes I'm not sure that he does, or when he finally does, you didn't need that trip.
Yeah.
Like the last 30 seconds of what he said is the answer.
Yeah.
And this really doesn't even help it that much. I feel like sometimes.
Right.
But he lays down a foundation. It's almost like he's putting down. It's funny 'cause I'm doing it right now. He's doing a 12-foot footing when only 3 feet is necessary.
Right. Exactly. It made me think earlier when you said about being a leader where you are now. A lot of people want things to stay the same, and it's like, well, you need change. And he talks about that. Have you read his books?
I've read one of them. Well, actually, I listened to it on Audible.
Yeah. The first one, 12 Rules for Life.
I don't remember. It's the one that talks about the
Clean your
crabs.
room. Yeah, the lobsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah.
The second one, so the first one he said was, I believe the first one was for people who had too much chaos in their lives. They need a little order. You know, the first rule is stand up straight with your shoulders back, you know.
Right. Make your bed.
Exactly. So people, mostly young men that he's talking to that don't have any discipline, that don't have an aim for their life, future authoring and stuff. Right. That's what that first book was. And the second book, it's even got a black cover. It's more introducing in some chaos, introducing in some change, and some shaking you out of the old ways of thinking or the doing. One chapter though is he's arguing for the importance of traditions and new ways and how they have to be in balance. That's what I love about that, because you know, he'll say this, most liberal type people thinking want to come in and blow out the old traditions. Right. And more the conservatives, they want to hold true to the traditions. This is how we've always done it. It's always worked out pretty well for us. Right. Get out with that new stuff. But there has to be like this give and take as far as keeping what's good on each end. And hopefully when you bring those together, you get to move forward together to even a better future. Right.
And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the, we can't live in the past, but we have to learn from it.
Yeah.
That's that whole exact same idea is we can't just live in tradition in the past, even though those were good times. Time changes.
Yeah.
And needs change and methods change and there's new things that are available that can make things that there's better ways of doing things. You know, there's some things that, man, it's a good thing we changed.
Yeah, right.
You know,
you don't miss horse and buggies, dude.
I could probably still get away with that, but bloodletting I'm out on.
Huh?
Bloodletting I'm out on.
What's that?
That's how one of our presidents was it Jefferson? One of our presidents died because they thought that the blood was poisoning him, so they
drained him.
Yeah, they drained the blood to get out the bad blood, and I don't remember which one it was, but one of our presidents died because of bloodletting.
Yeah, that's a good one. We can let that one go.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's wild.
Or electroshock therapy. I'm not a big fan of that one.
Well, hell, washing your hands before a surgery. That one always cracked me up. Man. Who knew? I would be as dumb. I would be as clueless as those guys. So I'm not saying anything. Like, I just got lucky. I got born with anesthetic, and everything.
Right.
But at one point, it was just like, cut him open.
Yeah.
Like,
right. Yeah. Gangrene.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't know how that happened.
Yeah. So there's room for, like, change needs to happen, but sometimes we rush into it, and when we should walk, and be patient and cautious in some things, and sometimes we're too quick to discard some things that have been traditions. Well, like, a lot of times the traditions are traditions because they have a tremendous amount of value. And like, I think about it in the church context, the amount of theology in hymns. Like, I know that's not the kind of music that people are, like, nobody, I want to say nobody, there's not a lot of...
They aren't as popular as they used to be.
It's hard to find, like, if before, like, XM radio and Sirius and then Spotify and stuff like that came out, you weren't going to find a hymn channel on the radio.
Yeah.
But, man, the amount of really good doctrine that is in a hymn is awesome. And there's good praise choruses and contemporary music that has that in it more now than there used to be. Some of it's just so light on theology, it's hard for me. But sometimes the old things that used to be really valuable get discarded for the new because it's new and fresh and exciting. But like book wise, my favorite books are still what I call the old dead guys.
Yeah.
Like, I like reading some of and some of them haven't been dead that long. I mean, C.S. Lewis and A.W. Tozer aren't that old.
I'm thinking Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I thought
no.
I'm like, wait, they've been dead a long time, man.
No, but I'm talking like
like
Anselm and Thomas Aquinas and Brother Andrew. Like, these are guys that's from quite a ways back that, man, they were smart. Unbelievable. Like, it's incredible, their minds. Part of it is because they didn't have a lot to do. So,
no joke.
Idle minds are brilliant minds. That's one of the biggest problems with phones and apps and stuff like that. It
is the biggest problem.
Our brains are never idle, and that's when some of our best thinking actually happens. Like, I force myself to have idle time sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because, and it's funny because at first it takes so long for my brain to settle down, but then it's almost like it accelerates. Like, all of a sudden the neurons, like, I've awakened my brain by letting it sit for a little while. And so, like, a lot of times if I'm at the dentist or at the doctor's office or I'm in line at the DMV or whatever, I force myself not to take out my phone and check my email or get on an app and crush candy or whatever, because I'm like, hey, this is a time of forced idleness. Let's see where my brain goes.
Right.
But I always have this with
Absolutely.
me so that I can write down some of the stuff that my brain comes up with. I'm like, dude, I never would have thought about that if I didn't let my brain idle.
Right.
These guys had so much of that idle time. That's part of the reason why they were so brilliant, is they just thought all the time. And those are some of my favorite people that have some of the deepest thoughts are these, like I said, what I call the old dead guys. Is that's where I tend to go the most. There's a lot of great authors, contemporary authors that are really good, but man, it's what's really funny is most of the time the guys that I really like that are writing right now are quoting the old dead guys.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, okay, yeah.
I'll just go to the source.
Yeah, well, but I'm like, now I know why I like you.
Right.
Because you dig these guys who were brilliant, and you're pulling off of them, and so that's why we got the same vibe. But yeah, the whole thing got to be growing, got to be pushing. Got to have people in your life that are doing that. Tradition has great value. There are things that we should never throw away, honestly, but there's a lot of things. But we also have to grow. Yeah, we gotta change with the times a little bit, be relevant. And make good use of the tools we have. You
ever read the book the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry? Did you maybe you recommended it to my mom?
I did.
Okay, then she recommended it. We did a book swap.
Yeah.
I made her read some psychedelic book.
Yeah.
Which was good because she actually enjoyed it, and I was like, wow, you actually,
she told me about it.
Yeah, open-minded to it, so I was pleased. And
yeah, we talked about it a bit.
Nice. And then I ended up reading that one, and I remember one fact that he talked about in there, and it was, the old dead guys got on average 11 hours of sleep a night because they didn't have artificial light and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, so don't feel bad that they were waking up at 4 a.m. to pray because they went to bed at 7 or whenever it was dark. Yes. It's like, dude, that is wild.
Yeah.
Imagine, and that's probably speaks to a little bit of what you were saying about not really, not you don't care for contemporary authors, but the old dead guys are writing from a different place.
Yeah.
A different mindset.
They're in the pocket,
a different world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it amazes me how much of what they wrote is like, how is that still contemporary? How is it still relevant right now when they wrote 100 years ago?
Or even more.
Right.
So, I think of Thoreau, and some of his quotes are like, I get it, in 1900s or whatever, but that is way more applicable right now with all the stuff we're going through.
Right. Yeah. And that's where, like, truth hits me in a way. I don't know, when I read stuff that's really good, and that's something on my insides just twists.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man,
what is that?
Yeah. And I think it's just that truth hits us in a way, like there's truth and then there's deep truth. Mm-hmm. And that's what I get more out of the old dead guys and there are contemporary authors I get it from as well. But man, when I read it and I go, wow, that's so true.
Yeah.
And that will never not be true.
Yeah.
The word does that for me a lot where I read, or when I read somebody that's doing some exposition of some scripture and I go, oh man, that's deep. Like it just wrecks me in some ways and just kind of breaks me down. But Comer's book did that in a little bit. Ruthless, Elimination of Hurry, John Mark Comer. I read that at the beginning of last year and it changed my life.
Excellent book.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I made very specific changes in my life because of that book.
As did I.
like days off.
Okay, dude. So I've only done it 2 Sundays. No phone, no Call of Duty.
Oh man.
No screens, no YouTube.
Yeah.
As very little as possible.
Yeah.
99% pullback. Yeah. And the last 2 Sundays I've done it, these previous 2 Sundays, exactly how you described it. Yeah. My brain, it takes the morning, it's revving down. It's like trying to decompress, I guess, from all the input. And then about midday, it just starts going, whoa. I mean, 4 or 5 pages of like, where'd that come from,
Yeah.
And it's a different wavelength for sure. It's a different energy.
It totally is. Yeah. For me, it was, I was a workaholic.
Sure.
There's, I love the church, but then the church, not this church. This church has a very healthy respect for its pastors and its time off. But all the other churches I'd worked at before, and even the church that my dad worked at when I was a kid, the church has a notorious habit of taking as much as a pastor is willing to give. And when it's God's work, like how do you say no? And
yeah, right.
There's a pride in that, and that I'm that necessary. But I just, after reading that book, and there's another book.
If you say it, I'm thinking of one, and I'm trying to put it together. The title.
It's not. It won't be one because it's not that.
The organization of the internal life, or something like that.
No,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. No, mine is this one was called the spiritually disciplined life. That's not quite right. Scazzaro is the author. Scazzaro.
Peter?
Yes.
Emotionally
the spiritually healthy discipleship, I think, or emotionally healthy discipleship is what it is. But he's got several books out there kind of along with this one here, Emotionally Healthy Discipleship. Oh, yeah. He has this great line in there that I read that book this summer while I was on vacation.
Oh, yeah, he just wrote it.
Yeah.
Just 20 minutes.
And he has this great line in there where, for Christians, it's a really good line.
That's cool.
Of Christians spend too much so much time doing for God that they don't spend enough time being with God. And if they are not spending adequate time being with God, then their doing for God loses its value. And it just becomes just work.
Yeah.
And that's not what God wants out of our life. He wants us to spend time with him. And so for me, paired really well with, it just hit home, paired really well with what Comer was talking about, that we fill our life with so much, and there's never any downtime. And, as a Christian, I'm supposed to Sabbath.
Yeah.
Which he talks about that it just means to stop.
Yeah.
Cease.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm trying to remember French Revolution, part of the rebellion of that whole thing, they changed everything. They changed the measuring system.
Oh, yeah.
They changed the width of the axles on the vehicles. They went to a 10-day calendar instead of a 7-day calendar. Like, they changed everything.
Wow.
But what they, a 10-day week instead of a 7-day week. But what they found is they couldn't do it.
Oh, because they got burned out.
Yeah. The human body or brain or soul, something like what I would explain is the way that God designed us is we can't do that very well. We need that certain cycle, and we need that time off to be healthy. And
really we're supposed to be just chilling, right?
Right.
Just eating fruit, throwing rocks,
well,
enjoying the garden, right? I mean, wouldn't that be the pristine?
Well, not necessarily.
Not totally, but you know what I mean? Like, it should be a leisurely.
Not necessarily. It's not a matter of, so Sabbath isn't a matter of doing nothing. But it's not doing, because there's still work to be done. Like, that was the problem the Jews had. The Jews made it into that and then became super legalistic. Like the Jews.
Don't lift your finger.
Well, no, dude, it was this. So this is the doorway to your house. All right. It was this specific. Like, they had all these rules. If so, hold out your hand. If I have an egg and you need an egg, if I have an egg and I'm outside of your house and you're inside your house, now turn your hand over and take the egg from me. Okay, now take it inside your house. Now you've worked.
Just crossing the doorway?
Yes, because you picked it up and you brought it into your house.
You can't bring anything into your house.
Now, if I
you reach in.
Yeah, and no, you still done work. You picked it up.
Drop it, bro.
I put it there. Now you've not done work. You've not violated Sabbath.
Wow, thanks for the egg.
Yeah, right.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's how specific. Like, they were just ridiculous in how much they defined what work was. Like, one of the miracles that they got a little in a twist about was when Jesus did one of the healings of the blind guy. And it says he spits and makes mud. And a weird thing about that one that I just learned not that long ago was that some people say that he made that the guy was born without an eyeball, and he formed because God made man out of the dirt.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That he takes and makes an eyeball and creates it. Some people say that. I don't know if that's true. It doesn't say that.
Kind of cool.
But the issue is he spits into the dirt and makes mud. That's work. And it was the Sabbath.
Because he's using his hands and
he made mud
out of soil, and
he created. He made mud.
Can't do that. Not today.
So that's not the issue. The issue is more about spending time with the Lord and enjoying His presence. And I can go out and mow my lawn, which is still technically work. But if I'm out there, but that's also relaxing for me. I totally like mowing my lawn.
Yeah.
Right. Diagonal pattern. And
exactly. Diamond cut.
That's right. That can still be present with him and enjoying the day and enjoying his creation. And it's more about that, of setting aside a day just to enjoy him and in his presence. And it's good to be brain idle and those things, because then you do hear him in ways where all the other distractions keep us from hearing his voice. Which is one of the reasons why we do those distractions, is because we're afraid of hearing his voice. But
give me some chills.
Yeah. But it's less about just being a couch potato.
Sure.
Which isn't productive. He doesn't want that either.
Yeah.
But it's about being more purposeful in it, and
that's exactly what
the rest. Yes.
That's what Comer
Yeah, John Mark Comer, yes.
I remember him saying that, like it's not legalistically to not do nothing, it's to be more intentional.
Yeah. And so I one of the things I decided was I was going to use this transition from this position to this position, from the youth minister to the pastor role, to kind of reinvent myself that way and make that change where I will take my days off. And dude, it's hard sometimes because I just ran out of time, and I'm like, man, I still got a sermon coming Sunday. I got to preach, and I don't want to steal from that time. And I've just really been very diligent as best I can to go, no, I'll trust the Lord will give me the words that I need, and it'll be fine. I need to take time off. I need to spend time with my family. When my kids are back and visiting, I need to spend time with them. And that book was necessary for me because I was not healthy in my work ethic. And I needed that. So that was a great book for me.
Oh, phenomenal book.
Yeah.
It's small, it doesn't take very long to read.
It blew
Ironically,
my mind.
I listened to it at twice the speed.
Yeah.
So
the part that blew my mind was, and I've done this some, was to detox off of my phone. I did the monochrome deal where you turn off all the colors. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I totally did that, and it worked, man. I'm not joking. Like, I was able to get off my phone. I don't do it all the time. It's really aggravating because there are some things that really you need color for, like maps when you're driving.
Yeah.
And
Where's the water?
Recalculate it.
Yeah. One thing I've discovered, I don't even know where my phone's at, but do you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
So do you use the Do Not Disturb?
Oh yeah.
Dude,
I'm using it right now.
I knew, that's awesome. I knew it worked. Like, I knew it was a possibility, but with the latest update, you can customize it. And maybe you could have customized it before. But the one reason I never was able, like in the evenings, I've always wanted to, after 8 o'clock, no phone, no TikTok, nothing. I want to. Rarely have I ever done it. Like, I'm wanting to do it. But one thing that held me back was my mom and dad and my brother. And like, man, what if like they get in a wreck?
Right.
They need some assistance, worst case, hospital, whatever.
Right.
So I was never able to do that. Dude, with the new thing, like, you can choose what gets passed on.
Right.
So in the Do Not Disturb, I can have my mom phone calls, text, dad phone calls, text, my brother phone calls, and wife.
Yeah.
And I've done it a couple times where it's like 8 o'clock, I'm done. And if it does ding, I'm like, I'm going to go check that, because that's one of the 4. And usually it's like a meme from Casey or something, but thankfully. But that was always something that kind of held me back, was just like the thought of like, I might get some important from these people. But it has really helped me. Yeah. And
yeah, that's been it. And I've been leaning, I've got great elders, and I've been leaning on them to do some things that normally I would be like, oh man, I'm Superman, I got to do it all.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just say, hey, I can't be there. Can you guys come when you guys do this? And they're great at catching that slack for me, and that's good. That's helpful too, to have people that are helpful that way,
and that you trust, and that will do a good job. And
that's huge. Man, dude, you hit me square in the eyes with that one.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at delegating because my quality control issues are stupid. Like, anytime anybody who delegates anything knows what it's like to be disappointed.
Oh yeah.
And there are some things that you can't afford not to go right.
It's true. Yeah.
Like, there are some things that you can be like, not a big deal.
Right. Good enough.
But right. Leave it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just throw some spackle on it. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
But there are other things that they're too important.
Yeah.
And you can't let those slide. And it's good to be able to have guys like that I can rely on and turn that over, and then I can still have my day off if I need to. There's no job that's 40 hours a week. No salary job.
Right.
And so I know ministry is not that, but we got to have time down.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Got to have it. And
I love the Crossland slogan, work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's really good. Like, it's simple, but also like, we're out to dinner. We're not talking about work. We're enjoying the dinner. And then when we're at work, we're not talking about what we're going to do this eat. I just really like that.
Yeah. When you hit that, like, that's the thing too, is sometimes even when you're off, like, one of the things that I was really bad at was, even on my days off, like, my brain never turned off.
Sure.
I'm always in the background, just my apps are constantly refreshing.
Yep. So you never were off. Even if you were off,
Right.
You're on the couch watching a movie. It's like, no, you weren't.
Right.
You were running around your head.
Right. Yeah. Another thing. Here's something that you'll find funny. This is something that I'm fairly structured on. Naps.
Oh yeah,
Dude, I'm a major fan of naps.
I wish I could take naps.
Dude, I'm telling you.
What's your secret?
16 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. People sleep on them. The power naps.
Dude.
They are incredible.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took me a while. I've got a few people that have bought into it we've talked about, and they've tried. They found out where they're.
Mine's 22.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 minutes to like settle, another 2 minutes to like get in, and then I'm in. I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
Or I'm napping.
Yeah. People don't realize how valuable that really is. Other countries do. Americans don't understand the value of. And everybody's like, I can't fall asleep in 15 minutes.
Can.
You totally can.
Yeah.
Dude, when I wake up from that, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm ready to attack the day. I'm gassed.
Yeah.
A lot of times right before I'm like, oh.
Yep.
But the problem is people take too long of a nap, and then they hit that third stage of sleep where the paralysis drug kicks in, and then they wake
Enter
up.
a different reality.
Man, well, everybody thinks that they're more tired, but they're not tired. They're literally drugged. Because your body paralyzes yourself, so you don't act out your dreams.
Right.
And then it has another drug that counteracts it. You go through those stages multiple times at night. You just gotta. That's why they have those apps that wake you up.
The lucid dreaming apps.
I don't know if some of them might be for that. It's the same principle.
Yeah.
Is what it would be.
Oh, they try to. Yeah, I know.
They wake you up at the prime time, so they don't wake you up in the wrong time, wrong phase.
At the right cycle, not the
yeah,
depths of
Yeah,
deep delta
right.
delta wave sleep.
Exactly. Yeah, they track your movement at night, which is how they know when you've been paralyzed or not. And then it knows. You said a time frame, like I want to wake up between 6:30 and 7.
Right.
And then it wakes you up at the right time in that time frame. And it just you have to wear your watch, or some of them you have to leave your bed, your pillow on your phone on your bed, and so that way it can track your movements. But that's how those things work, is that same principle. And so yeah, I nap almost every day.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Consistently at the same time, or just kind of like when you feel it?
Mostly when I feel it, but I tend to take one around 2:00.
Yeah. It just seems like that's like the normal siesta time,
right? Yeah.
After lunch and heat of the day.
Yep. Yeah. I'll lay down and take a 16-minute nap. Look up. I'm like, all right, dude, let's go.
It's unbelievable.
I'm so energized.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of those. And one of the things that I think it happens with it, I don't know scientifically if this actually does with that little amount of sleep, but when you wake up in the morning, like a lot of people think that, man, I do my best thinking in the shower.
Yeah.
Well, it has nothing to do with the shower. It has your brain, when you wake up, does fire differently. I read about.
Oh yeah, the waves, the brain waves. Like, I don't know exactly. Like there's like theta and alpha, and I don't know.
I read something on it the other day. I don't remember. I didn't file it away anywhere, but I remember reading it. And all I remember was when you first wake up in the morning is one of your most productive parts of your brain all day long, because it's been firing in your dream mode and stuff like that. And then some of that lingering effect is still happening then. And so for people who get up, go downstairs, take a shower, their brains literally is firing there.
It's still in that state. Yeah.
And I'm fairly convinced that whether I'm delusional, but whether it's a real thing or just a what do they call that? Where if you think it's true, it's true.
Not a side effect. Placebo.
Yeah. Placebo. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Whether it's a placebo or not, I don't even care. I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I wake up from that nap, that happens. Like
you've heard the story about Henry Ford taking naps? He would hold a pencil.
Oh yeah. Over a tray.
Well, I think he would like sit in his chair or whatever and like hold it. Maybe it was Einstein. Need to take more naps. But he would sleep. He would start to gradually fall away, and as he would go to sleep, it would fall out of his hand, and then he would kind of remain in that state of half awake, half asleep, kind of I don't know what theta brainwave or whatever, and come up with his inventions and his ideas. It's either Ford or Einstein, one of those guys.
That's actually so some people say that's the best way to find out what your time slot is. I just did it mine by trial and error. I started out at 21, 22. And
woke up too sleepy.
Oh, I was like, oh, this is not it.
Oh, yeah.
And I can do 19. So 16 to 19 is about my sweet spot. But 16 tends to be my best. And so, but they say one of the ways to find out where yours is you set a timer. You lay down, you fall asleep, you have a metal spoon in your hand, and you have it all hanging off the bed or the couch or whatever over a metal tray.
Makes a loud noise.
And then when you go to sleep, you relax that, you drop it, it hits, look at your timer.
Right. That's
when you fell asleep. Back it off of that just a little bit.
There you go. There's your measurement.
Yeah, something like that anyway. But that's what it made me think of. But no, I'd never heard that. They use that to...
Yeah, so whoever it was, he would be thinking about a problem or something that he was designing, and then as you kind of enter into that strange, dreamlike, sleepy in-between stage, sometimes it was easier to flow and to manipulate images and stuff and come up with epiphanies or whatnot. Yeah,
I love epiphanies, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to, the dork in me wanted to do a theme for church camp one year. And
are you guys still going to Camp Quaker Haven?
No, we hadn't done Quaker Haven since when Nick was here. Nick moved it to Sky Ranch, which is in Quapaw.
Oh, okay.
And then 2 years ago, we switched to Maranatha in Riverton, Missouri, and also Camp Como in Colorado. So the high schoolers, we take dude, it's sweet.
That one sounds fun.
Yeah, we take the high schoolers every other year. We take them to Colorado. They're going this year.
Cool.
It's pretty cool.
Other churches go to, or is it just you? Okay,
other churches, yeah. And same thing with Maranatha. It's a bunch of churches all together. And it's fun hanging out with all the other churches.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Yeah, Sky Ranch was just us.
Okay, yeah. It's just right around the corner.
Yeah. Right. But I got to backtrack now.
Got me Epiphanies.
Yeah. So Summer Epiphany was what I was going to call it.
Summer of Epiphany.
Yeah, Summer
Sounds
Epiphany.
Like an album, like a rock album.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But the shirt was going to have just an O on it with quotation marks. And then what's that? And I said, well, an epiphany is this sudden revelation of knowledge or truth. And what would they do?
Oh.
Exactly.
You are a graphic designer.
I'm such a dork, man. That's totally what I wanted to be.
I get it.
And then they go,
it's an epiphany on an epiphany.
Yeah. And that's exactly where I would go. See, you just had an epiphany.
Right. And then how many layers deep could you go?
Oh, dude. It's, Inception, man.
So you haven't used that idea yet?
Oh, no.
Yeah, just keep that in the back pocket. That one's still good.
I appreciate it, but most people don't.
Come on. That's going to be a good one.
Out there. Yeah, I love it.
At least make a shirt for yourself.
Yeah,
right. And then you can have that story to tell people.
Oh, man, I got so many shirts I want to make right now. I want to make.
Do you make your own shirts?
I have.
Yeah.
I've done some, but I just I'm not very disciplined. I like the exploration a lot, and so there aren't very many things other than coffee where I'm just like I know what my grams to milliliters is for my pour over.
That's good. Most people don't.
I know exactly where I like it dialed in, because that does need to be like that. Well, my skills with my burning in my image, not very good. I don't have enough.
Talking like the actual burnt, like into a shirt, or
burning
the image into.
No. For the, and I'm losing my term. It's been too long since I've done it. But the way when you do screen printing, you have your screen, and then you put this film over it, which I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically a paste that you put in really thin, and then you put your image on top of it, and then you burn it, and it bakes the image around it, but your image that's on there doesn't get cooked.
Oh, it's like a negative.
Yes, and so then you rinse that out, and it comes out, and so that part is just the screen. So when you take the ink, you put it on there, it goes through the negative image, but doesn't get everywhere else. That's how screen printing works.
Oh, okay.
But if you overbake, then it starts to bleed in. It's almost like putting a blur filter on, and it starts to bleed in. Or if you undercook it, you don't get a nice crisp edge. And I wasn't terribly good at that part of it.
Yeah.
I didn't have a light table. Like
Yeah.
people who are doing it professionally have, like, it burns all in.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
you know, and anybody who's doing church right now, most of them are doing it with a Cricut and,
Yeah.
you know, just heat pressing it on anyway. But
Yeah.
But like one I want to make, it's slightly offensive.
Interesting.
Probably too. It shouldn't be, but I want to use our church logo as the T, but it's just a gracist, or I'm a gracist.
Nice. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you could wear it.
I
because
know
you're the pastor.
I
dude.
know, but
Right.
it's pushing it a little bit for
Right,
some people.
right.
They're like, dude, that's offensive.
Right. Grace on you, brother.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I like doing all that kind of stuff, and I like coming up with ideas like that. But yeah, the summer epiphany just never happened. Never happened.
It still lives on, and now it's going to live on forever in the podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Somebody else will pick it up, and more power to them.
Yeah. Going back to the whole like taking time off or whatever. I had, when you cooked me ramen when I had COVID. Mm-hmm. 2 days before, my phone bit the dust. I had a Pixel, and the motherboard like gone, like it just whatever. And I took it into the phone shop, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna send it off." I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, you'll be without a phone.
Oh, dude, I was in reality without a phone.
Yeah.
You know?
How are you gonna contact me to let me know it's?
Yeah, I had it. Well, the wife's phone, but yeah, that was a concern of like, dude, that's the phone. Mm-hmm. And then I come down with COVID, and then I was, you know, bedridden for 10 days or whatever. But the craziest thing like that happened is I had no phone. So it was 10 days of me just going like waking up, like looking around,
being in your headspace.
Yes, but 10 days of like extended period. And then I got better, and so I started driving around. I can't listen to anything in the car besides radio. I ain't gonna listen to radio. And I just remember thinking like, who is thinking right now? Like, where are these thoughts coming from?
Yeah.
And I kind of have that on the Sundays that I'm doing now, but 10 days of it, it was, I was a different person. And I still think about that sometimes, like, how could I get back there? You know? Yeah,
I know. Here's the thing that blows my mind with all that kind of stuff. Who was it wrote it? It's one of my dead guys that I like. Anyway, I love that question because it boggles my mind. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're wrestling with your thoughts.
Oh.
Who are you wrestling with?
Yeah.
You know, when you're debating with yourself, how does that even work? Mm-hmm. Like, which one's me?
Yeah.
Are they both like?
I know.
You know, I think about that sometimes, and I geek out quite a bit with multiple personality stuff because my family's had a lot of real life interaction with that. We've had two girls that were. One of them's actually part of our family. One of them actually legally changed her name to Zustiak because of her interaction with our family. And they both had multiple personalities. And, dude, it was fascinating. Yeah. Fascinating learning about some of that stuff where most of it is, dude, it's mind-boggling. It's a self-defense mechanism that God designed the human mind to have when trauma happens.
To develop multiple personalities.
Well, yeah, it'll make sense here in a second. Yeah. You know, sometimes when you've been driving somewhere and you're in that deep state of thought, and then you go, oh, dude,
how did I get here?
Yeah, like, did I blow through those stop signs? Yeah. Or like, was I off the road? You know, and the human brain has the ability to bifurcate itself and to delegate mundane tasks so that you can go over here and think. Right. And so this part of your brain is driving and is conscious of doing all those things, but your consciousness is actually over here dwelling on whatever this issue is that's consuming you. Right. And so you didn't drive all over the road, and you didn't, like, nobody else probably even knew that you were in that different space. Know. Right. That's what multiple personality really is. It's multiple versions of that. And so like I can't give too many details specifically because I don't know.
We'll call her Bob.
Yeah. Well, one of them, so one of the girls, her family was they were Satanists. Oh. And I refused to repeat some of the things that were done to her. Yeah. way worse than the one I'm going to share. One of them, an interesting thing about multiple personalities is they are the age that the person was when the event happened.
Right.
And
they get trapped there.
And they
right?
don't age. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of them it was the girl.
Yeah.
Because her dad, as one of their ceremonies, drowned her in their family pool and then resuscitated her, and then repeated that numerous times. Drowned her, resuscitated her, drowned her, resuscitated her, multiple times. You can understand how a person wouldn't be able to handle, like, a little girl having this person who's supposed to love her more than anybody and protect her, doing this to her. How do you deal with that? Especially when you don't have anybody else in your life who knows it, that you can even talk to and help you process it.
Right.
Like, you got to do something.
You have to create somebody.
And so it's a defense mechanism so she doesn't go crazy. It didn't happen to her. It happened to her.
Whoa. And
so that's one of the reasons why multiple personalities, valid ones, happen, is it's a self-defense mechanism that happened to her. Or something when there's serious stress and they have a hard time dealing with it. This one had happened to her.
Yeah.
You know, and
happened to somebody else.
Happened to somebody else.
Yeah.
Wow. Didn't happen to me. It happened to her.
Yeah. Whoa.
Or him or whatever. And the whole goal is to you reintegrate.
Right. That's where the healing would take place.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like one of the girls is so funny. It blows my mind because just like when we're doing that, going back to that driving thing, you have literally no memory at all of, like, no matter how hard you try, you don't remember driving from A to B.
Right.
You know, until you got back into that. One of the girls called up my mom. She was going to Ozark, and she's like, I don't have any clean clothes. And so, once they become aware of the other personalities, and they take turns coming out and being in control, and they can even communicate to each other. Which,
it's like Gollum
kind of
stuff, back
yes,
and forth.
seriously, straight up, just like that.
Yeah.
And she said, I don't have any clean laundry, and I don't know how to wash clothes, and so won't come out.
Oh yeah, I've heard people speak like that.
Yeah. And you know, one of the personalities handles all the homework, and one of them handles all of the homemaking stuff, and one of them does all the dating and is the fun one. And but she
Tyler Durden in that.
Yeah, you know? Right. Yeah. And so she literally didn't know how to do laundry because that personality never had.
Whoa.
You're like, how's that even possible? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, that kind of stuff just blows my mind of how we can do that. We can be in two separate places and really thinking about something. And I'm trying to pull myself back to how that got started. You made a comment about something that got me started on that. And I'm trying to remember where it was because I had a point in bringing that up.
Let's see if we can remember. I think I told the story about having COVID and being very focused.
Yep.
And
and on Sundays and how we were talking about we're super close.
Wavelengths.
We're right there.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Being more intentional, different personalities.
I don't know. We're super close, and I'm gonna hate it that I don't
healing
get back to
integrated.
It. No, it wasn't about the healing or integrating it, but it was something to do with the
personalities,
the bifurcating and separating and being able to go into this different. We were talking about the phone. That's how we got started, and you lost it, so you had to. I don't know. It'll come back to me in a minute. Let's keep talking about something else, and I'll go. Oh yeah, now I remember.
I was like, you did? You got me. Do you know who? I think it's Charles Kraft. I get Charles Kraft and another Kraft. The guy who owns the Patriots.
Charles Kraft is the guy that writes the book about the demon stuff.
Okay, Charles Kraft, not Robert Kraft, because I get them confused all the time.
Yeah.
I went to one of his seminars in California.
Really? Okay, cool.
Super cool. Yeah, super cool. And there was some footage of basically what you're talking about of a girl who I think her family was involved in the Masons, right? Freemasonry, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And so he went through his whole cycle of bringing these children out, and she had inner children, I think is what he called them. But I think she had like 4 of them.
Wow.
And one was, 3 years old. One was 7 years old.
Right.
One was, sometimes the trauma was something, I think the 13-year-old, 14-year-old self that was traumatized was her dad didn't say that she looked good on her prom or something. Wasn't insanely powerful, but it affected her. And she had this multiple personality, almost demon-like thing going on, even with something that shallow. And then obviously some of the stuff was like ritualistic, sexually based, something much more intense. But yeah, it was this video of him going through and bringing those out, dealing with those, integrating them back, and going through this whole process. And it was a fascinating weekend. It was really interesting. Yeah,
the thing that blew my mind with one of the girls who's part of our family now, she married my mom's cousin. She said, it's so quiet.
Wow.
Because she's used to there being conversations going on inside of her head, this other world that exists in there. And when she integrated into one, she's like, it's so quiet now. It blows my mind. Oh, I remember.
Yes.
We were talking about who were we debating with?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I knew it would come back later.
Yeah.
That whole thing blows my mind of when I'm mulling something over, I'm arguing with myself. How does that even work? I mean, that blows my mind to think about which is me. Sometimes, like for me, sometimes I believe that the other voice is the Spirit. Yeah. That it's the Holy Spirit talking with me and I'm wrestling with Him. Yeah. But there are other times when, like, I don't know that He would argue with me about whether I should eat pizza or hamburgers. That's silly to think about. But
maybe it would.
I don't know. I doubt it.
He's like, pepperoni, possibly. Really?
Yeah.
It's all about cheese.
The body's a temple of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, right.
Put that in me.
Yeah.
Go get yogurt. Yeah. There are things that I believe that He does wrestle with this, but there are things like when I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to do this thing or not do this thing, and I know it's wrong or I know it's right. And why is there any debate at all? Like if I'm convinced, Paul talks about that a little bit. He's in Romans.
We do what we don't want to do.
Yeah,
I love that.
Dude.
I can never recite it because it's like,
the thing there's so many do's in it, but I used to call it the do verse.
Yeah, I like that verse.
Yeah. What I want to do, I do not do. The thing I do not want to do, this I do. And I find this war within me. That's it's so hard. Yeah, because I don't know how that works. How consciousness works and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It blows my mind.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. The thing that even goes further is when whoever's in there knows more than me, and they offer up an answer, and I'm like, where'd that come from? Was that me? Did I know that answer? Like, why didn't I already know it? Like, why are you telling me it? And then that's, I wrote a blog a couple weeks ago about that, and I was walking the track at Galena, and I was talking to myself, I guess. Yeah. And I was thinking, like, I can solve other people's problems pretty quickly. Like, I can see, like, I can at least offer some advice. Right, you probably do this, you probably be all right. But then I observe myself, and I'm like totally blind. Right. And I'd have to read the blog to remember exactly what I said, but to myself, or maybe the Spirit, because this one was pretty profound. It was just kind of like, I'm perfect how I am, as a joke, just like I'm like, ha, and then whatever it was like, really? And I'm like, like what do you got to give me, and it's like, boom, it let this thing out. It said,
open the floodgates.
Oh man, it's like it told me, or I told myself, however you want to word it, is like, you have treasure, you see treasure that you don't take, and you have treasure that you don't give. Yeah, ouch. I'm like, okay, I was just joking. Yeah. But it made sarcasm. It made for a good, in the end, it turned out to be a good lesson, and it was a good walk. But the question goes back, like, who the heck was I talking to? Right. And where did that come from? Yeah. Peterson talks about it too. Yeah. The coda, you write a question down and somehow an answer. Like, he'll talk about it as discipline. He says, you sit at the edge of your bed and you ask, what is one stupid thing I'm doing that I could stop that would better my life? Something will pop up, almost immediately.
And I don't want to ask that question.
Nobody does. Nobody does. But how come you get an answer?
Yeah. Right.
If you're willing. And that goes back to what you were saying. If we're playing these podcasts and these musics, Casey told me a quote one time that the language of God is silence. It's like, so we're always trying to drown him out, or because we are afraid to hear his voice, and we're afraid to ask that question because what is the answer? But then again, man, look at all these loops I'm making. Then we go back to the potato chip, and it's like we actually want the answer, because if we act on the answer, our life gets better, our relationships get stronger, and the whole thing is better for it, I think.
Yeah. Augustine, that's who it was.
Oh, Saint.
Yeah. Augustine, yeah. He talks about in his book. Can't remember which one it is right now, but anyway, he talks about this whole. He wondered about the same things. That if I tell my hand to raise up, it raises up, and there's no debate. If I tell my hand to go down, there's no struggle there. There's no conflict. There's no argument. But when it comes to matters of right and wrong, like why? Yeah. Which one's me? The one that wants to do the good stuff? Is that really me? Or the one that wants to do the bad stuff? Yeah. And the other voice is trying to stop the real me from is it the flesh versus the spirit? I don't know. It's interesting, and I don't have answers for that. It puzzles me, and it fascinates me that we can debate with ourselves. Bizarre.
Yeah. It's almost, I would almost say that they're both you, and it's almost I don't know, there's like 11 dimensions, but it's like almost like a fifth dimension or whatever. The one is like choice, and you can see yourself doing both, eating or being nice to this person or being mean to this person. Right. And you're at this threshold where it's like you can go either way.
Yeah, free will.
Yes. There's your moment of free will. Right. And you choose. In this case, you are kind to this person. You weigh it, but I think what people don't like to find out is that they want to do the bad or the unattractive thing. They find some sort of pleasure in it, or they find some sort of attraction. They're like, what? Which goes in like probably Jung and the shadow, and integrating the shadow and understanding like that's in there, Back to Peterson again, talking about people that said, I wouldn't have been a Nazi, I would have helped the Jews. And it's like, you would have been the first Nazi, and you would have been the highest ranked Nazi,
Yeah, you would have signed up right off the bat.
Right. But it's very difficult to think like, I would have done that, just like all these other people would have done. You want to think that you would be brave and courageous and stand up to that, but hey, look at where we are now, like, what has happened? Right.
Yeah, a lot of people wonder about that with Christianity. Is people make claims all the time of you're just a Christian because you were born in America in the Midwest. Doesn't have anything to do with your intellectual evaluation of it. If you'd been born in Turkey, you'd be a Muslim. There's a lot of argument that happens that way, and there's some truth to that. We have to look at that a little bit of, if I had been raised in Germany at that time and been through those things, I can't assume that I would be any different. Looking back, hindsight's easy, but foresight's way harder.
Right.
Can we take a short break for just a sec?
Oh yeah. Do that? Yeah, we'll be right back. Peace. You drink a lot of coffee?
I used to drink more coffee. Now I'm on this Zip Fizz.
Zip Fizz. Yeah. Caffeinated?
Nope, not caffeinated. It's vitamin B. Vitamin B hits.
Oh, okay, like a energy source type thing.
Yeah, dude, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's sugar free.
Yeah,
so I'm dropping a little bit of weight, but I tend to. Like I said, I'm in all sorts of flavors, and I was doing Alani New for a while because Alani's are great.
A what?
Alani New. It's got 200 milligrams of caffeine in it, sugar free. Dude, it's great stuff.
That's gnarly.
Dude, it's awesome.
I bet.
Yeah, I love it. And every now, like I keep one or two around, but they're
break in case of.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. If I'm really tired and I need a hit, I go to that. And it's good stuff, and it's not overly sweet. It doesn't have all the vitamin taste and stuff like that.
Right.
Because some of those things are. I don't like them, and a lot of the energy drinks I don't like. I hate the crash later. I don't like that, dude. That kills me. no nap helps that.
You got to time it right, or it's terrible.
Yeah, and I don't want to live on those things, but I dig that. But those are $2.50 a piece. I can't drink a couple of those a day. That'd be terrible.
Oh heck no.
And these are Zip Fizzes are about 90 cents a piece. It's just a little powder you pour in the water and mix it up and drink it.
Yeah, that goes a long ways.
Dude,
you got to propel every once in a while or something. Like that's what you need.
Yeah,
not just that clear water.
Yeah, I do 1 or 2 a day.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's hard. I actually, once I started tracking electrolytes and stuff, I was surprised at how hard it was to keep up with electrolytes and vitamins and whatnot.
Yep.
Just throughout the day. You know, water is thankfully pretty easy to get a hold of, but good grief.
Here.
Yeah,
for sure. We take that for granted.
Yeah. I carry my life straw, bro. I'm ready. I'm ready to suck a puddle, which I never have. My dad would always tell me about survival stuff, and he's like, you should be practicing now so that when the time comes, you're ready to go. Oh, man. And I can confidently say I've never stuck my life straw in a pond or anything. So
Yeah. Dude, those things are expensive.
They are. They're like $20.
Oh, they were high. Last I looked, they were like 80.
Ooh, that's like the pristine water straw.
Yeah, REI. Yeah, REI had them, and I was like, golly.
Well, maybe the one you were looking at is like, some of them have the ultraviolet light and the filter, which is like, that's the best because the ultraviolet kills the viruses, the filter gets the bacteria, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I don't even know what all was in it. I just knew that was way too big for my pocket.
Yeah, that's for some drinking. Yeah, it's not that good.
Yeah, I was drinking that moon water.
There you go. What's that? I've had some moon water before. Dude, when I first guided, my very first group of guys that I guided was from deep Texas, like so deep that it was hard to understand them. The twang. Really? Oh, wow. They were really cool guys, but their twang was deep. And the last day, the older gentleman, I can't remember his name, like gives me a ball of Crown Royal apple. And I'm like, thanks, man. I'm not really, like not big on it or whatever. But thank you. And then he gave me my tip in cash, and we get to talking or whatever. And I go, kind of get to the end of our conversation. I go, well, thanks for the Crown Royal. He goes, boy, that ain't Crown Royal. And I go, oh. And he's like, that's my homemade moonshine. Oh, yeah. Holy Lord. It was... I think I sipped on that for probably 4 years. Like, wow. It was too much. It was... I don't know. I've never taken a shot of gasoline, but I'm assuming that it's closely related. But yeah, it's probably the best tip I've ever got guiding. It was cool. That's funny. I always appreciated it.
Yeah, Rusty Kramer's he's brewing right now.
Nice.
And he's doing both. He's doing some, mostly beer, but he's got some whiskey, and he's doing some, well, he made something the other day that he brought to a party, and it was those little bitty plastic. And I tried it, and I'm not a drink. I don't like alcohol. It's not a matter of personal choice, not so much as like my palate rejects it.
Yeah,
like it's so offensive to beer drinkers because my tongue hates hops.
Oh yeah,
and that's like the part of beer that makes beer is
pretty
the hops.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you can get into some of the others, but yeah, for the most part, that's what makes beer. That's what people like. Is that's why IPAs are so.
It's the amount of hops that make it whatever beer it's going to be.
Right, and so the longer a beer's in your hand, the hoppier it tastes, and that's the more I dislike it. And so,
and it's torture.
I know it's just alcohol just doesn't suit my palate. It's so funny. But
isn't beer a good drink for disc golfing? Like, do a lot of guys?
A lot of guys do drink while they throw. Yeah, and disc golf is greatly associated with beer and marijuana.
Really?
Oh man,
I thought you were gonna say Christians, dude.
Oh no,
because everyone I know is like, yeah, you play, don't you? Like,
yeah. The pot smoking is
it's kind of
a big deal.
It's very similar to golf, which is like a leisurely activity, and you're taking your time and bullshitting with your friends, and it's my jam, man. I love it. But I'm kind of like with Comer. I don't do tournaments. I don't get too invested.
Americans are terrible about taking their leisure activity and turning it into a job.
Right. Yeah.
Which ruins it.
Yeah.
Then they hate it because now they're got obligations, and it's not just for fun anymore, and they ruin their pastime. And I love playing disc golf. It's so relaxing for me, and I'm still competing when I'm playing with my friends, but I'm not going to get bent out of shape about it, and I'm not going to pay money to go do what I can go do for free, and especially if I do that, like the beast is going to come out. Like I'm gonna be hyper focused. I'm gonna be putting in all this extra time practicing and stuff like that.
Oh, I didn't write a sermon.
Yeah, right. I know, right? Yeah. Oh wait, I have a wife.
Yeah. Right. You know. You're still here?
Yeah. I'm shocked.
Right. Well, let's go play disc golf.
Yeah. She did for a while. I think I got her burned.
Was it fun?
Dude,
to two of you to play?
Oh yeah, I loved it. Yeah, and she was progressing, but it's not her cup of tea.
Yeah, it's jiu-jitsu for kills.
I know. Yeah,
and she's like, it's fun.
And we've played. I've played with my friends. I've played 81 holes in a day before.
How?
Yeah,
just redo the same one?
No,
or you drive around to new ones?
We started out in Joplin, drove to Neosho, played Neosho, played Carthage, then came back and played more in Joplin. And
what's a normal course, like 9,
18 usually.
Oh, 18.
Yeah, just like in golf, or what we call ball golf.
Ball golf.
It's called ball golf, which annoys them. That's part of the reason why we do it.
Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
Every time they say it's golf,
right?
Like, no,
original
it's ball golf. That's right. It's like football.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
All right, yeah. But yeah, I just love to play. It's just so satisfying. Even if I'm not playing great, like I hit a tree, it's funny.
Yeah.
Like, and it rolls. I played yesterday. The wind was 35 miles an hour, 45 miles.
Yeah, on the slow gusts.
Yeah, it was brutal.
It was.
Charles wanted to go throw at Chatopa, so we drove up there and played. And oh my gosh, I just one throw perpendicular to the wind, so we were throwing west to east, and of course the wind was going 60 miles an hour to the north. Well, that disc turned flat, and a gust came, and I was as far perpendicular from the hole as I was from the tee pad. That thing, I've never seen a disc travel that far sideways in my entire life.
Crazy.
It just got, the bottom plate got turned up and a massive gust hit, and it flew 100 feet.
Wow.
After the first skip.
So where it
hit
lands?
And came up and then went like this and just took off.
So where does it land? Where does it?
Way out of bounds. We'll just.
So then you get to redo it? You just scrap it?
Well, we were just playing a casual round, so we weren't keeping score anyway.
Wasn't a big deal.
He's got a tournament there next weekend, and so he's wanting to play it again a little bit. And you try different lines and stuff like that. It's just a casual round, but normally, if it goes out of bounds, you can re-tee, but it's an extra stroke, just like in golf. Or you bring it in wherever it went out of bounds. You bring it back in a meter, and you throw from there, and you gain a stroke because you're out of bounds. But
nice.
But yeah, I was probably 85 feet out of bounds, maybe 100, probably closer to 100 feet out of bounds.
Comically out of bounds.
Yes, hilarious, and I just laugh. Other people get all bent out of shape. And I'm like, why do you play? Like that would not be fun for me.
I know some golfers that do. Like on their Saturdays, like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, I know you're shooting bad, but it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be leisurely.
I know, man. If you can't laugh at a bad shot, then you're way too strung for me.
Are you paying your bills with disc golf? Like, no, like this is just for fun.
Yeah.
Do you know Daniel Valentine?
Yeah, I'll play with him.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
Daniel and Jake Morin. And
ate up with that.
And the twins. And
we went over to Chaos. Gosh, this is 3 weeks ago or something. And we walk in, they go, like, backs to us. They're like, hey. They're all looking up at the TV monitors, and there's disc golf, I don't know, championships or whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, my sister's fiance got me a gift. He's like, it's a signed disc golf by
Ricky Wysocki.
Probably that guy. Yeah, the number one. He goes, I'm going to marry you.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, that's cool. That's
awesome.
Awesome.
I play with Daniel every now and then. I'm part of a Facebook group with them. And
cool.
I met Daniel, actually. I found one of his discs.
Oh, cool.
Back when there used to be a course at Dover Hill, and I threw one out into the sticks and was in there looking for mine. And I'm like a bird dog when it comes to that kind of stuff. I find all sorts. It's like I've got some weird radar, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
There's a disturbance in the force.
Yeah,
there's a disc over here somewhere.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, there is.
That's awesome.
That's how I
need you for archery.
And
arrows.
Oh, gosh. Oh, dude, I've got a story about that.
Arrows?
Oh, yeah.
What happened?
We'll follow up on that one here. Let me finish this Daniel story. So I found one, and he had his name on there. And so I called him up. We ended up going to the pizza place. We were just talking about
Carino's.
Yeah, Carino. We ended up going to getting pizza at Carino's, which was funny because he was working at...
Oh, he was working at...
Right next door.
Blackthorn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Blackthorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Isn't that funny?
I like Daniel a lot.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Yeah. I like hanging out with those guys.
I miss the infusion days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's a very...
So the arrow story...
Just happened at your house on 60th?
No, it was when we were at the apartment there by the church.
Oh, okay.
That little... Dan and McCorkle live there on that corner where the bypass is, and there's that little tan house back behind.
Okay.
We lived there for the first 2 years we were here.
Oh, okay.
While I was building that house.
Oh, nice.
That we're in. And, oh man, that was a long time. I got into this deal. These guys were making PVC bows. And I got into looking at making PVC bows. And,
okay.
And
like pipe, like PVC pipe.
Yeah, PVC. Yeah, PVC pipe, and then some of them even make little wood things to put extra stuff on there, and I thought it's kind of cool. And dude, so I made one, and you heat it up and you bend it, and you can do different things to it. There's a couple of channels that are pretty good and they're pretty fun, and so I thought, I'll make one. It'll be kind of fun, and you can even make arrows and stuff. But I thought, well, I want to see if this thing even does anything. I mean, it's a PVC bow.
Yeah, what can it do?
Right. And so, this is so terrible. So the boys both had bows. So I got one of Levi's arrows, and I went out and I just,
oh no,
out in the field out there. And it's
pretty open.
Yeah, probably 150 yards, which is, I'm thinking it's a PVC bow.
I would think that.
I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Especially I was shooting pretty high, given enough time to come down. Oh no, there's houses over there. Like I was legitimately terrified.
Petrified that what you have just done.
Because I let it go and I went, oh no.
Yeah.
And I to this day, I have no idea where it actually landed. I walked over. I know it, at the very least, it got into the woods.
Yeah.
That separates our house from the neighbor's house, which isn't very far away.
Right.
I'm
at least probably more.
I'm pretty confident.
Oh, it's in someone's
and there's
roof,
kids
dude.
that play over there, and I'm like, the amount of regret. That's some of the most deep regret I've ever had in my life. When that went, I went, oh.
I should have tested this a different way.
Yeah, come back.
Oh, yeah, I hate that feeling. That's the worst feeling.
Oh, but...
Well, who would have thought a PVC bow would be able to do that, though?
No, because they're always just shooting targets in a small distance, or even fishing. You can bow fish with them.
Oh wow,
something like that, dude. It's a legit thing. It's amazing how well
it must
fired.
Be, because my first thought was like, why even waste your time? You know,
I know. Oh,
I busted PV. I've taken PV, broke it. Like how could they? But I guess,
look it up, dude. Check it out sometime.
You can
Get
make
on
some wild growth.
and look. And it's just 1 inch? Is all it's just 1 inch PVC, and I was shocked at how that thing shot. It was amazing, and I was an idiot for doing what I did.
Yeah, I mean, you learned, and thankfully nothing bad happened.
Never again will I ever do that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's about as dumb as having your finger on a trigger of a pistol when you're not getting ready to shoot.
Yeah,
don't ever do that.
No, don't ever do that. No. I shot my kitchen cabinet like that.
Oh.
Yeah. And I have it on security footage. I get to rewatch my stupidity.
Oh.
Was not good, dude. Was not good. We actually went hiking in Arkansas that day, and like the whole time I'm just walking like,
wow.
What if?
Oh man.
What if this would have, this way, that way, this way. It's like, and the bullet hole's still in my cabinet. If you come over one of these days, I'll show you. Like, that's where I learned. That's where I learned. Oh,
I got a new ramen recipe. I need to bring some over.
Nice.
Dude.
Yeah. I made what did I make? Baguettes the other day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. On a Sunday where I wasn't doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to hop on YouTube. I can't get on YouTube. So I grabbed my bread book that I've never used. I bought it on Amazon. I never used it. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll use it. It was awesome.
Great.
Yeah,
That's
dude,
great.
it was awesome. I got to open it up. I'm like reading, underlining the steps and everything. They turned out okay. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. I was happy that I actually got to use the book and not get lost in YouTube, because that's what would happen.
Oh yeah. How did I get to looking at cat videos?
That's where I start.
Yeah.
Like boom, cat video.
My next deal I'm working on is I'm going to start doing some pizza weeks.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I came across there's a couple of cooks that I follow on YouTube, and one of them he brought in this guy who does this.
Josh Wiseman.
I'm terrible with names. I can go to their page and I know
Papa say good.
Oh no, that's not that. No, this guy. If I pulled it up, you might recognize him, because there's a lot of them. I recognize them,
right?
But I don't know their names. I'm terrible. I'm the same way with music.
Yeah,
I can't tell you.
I'm terrible with music.
Who sings it? I can hum it for you.
Yeah, right.
But there's this thing called the Sicilian pizza they make, which is that's the good wood fire dough.
Yeah.
You got to start out with I think it's called a poolish, and it's kind of a yeasty, kind of like a sourdough deal, and you got to let it. It's hours worth of time that you got to spend. So that's why I'm going to do pizza weeks.
Yeah.
You make this deal, then you make several dough balls out of it.
Yeah.
But you take 2 hours to do this, and you got to let it rest for 4 hours, and then you do it some more, and then you got to let it rest for 2 more hours, and it's a lot of work involved. It's not something that you want to do and just to have
for
pizza
dinner
that
tonight.
night, right?
Yeah.
It's a full day event, really, in some ways. And so my plan is to make it, and then make enough to make. I'm gonna do pizza every night.
Yeah.
But pizza's great because, for me, it's perfect food because there's so many different ways to make it.
Of course.
You can do a margarita. You can do
my favorite.
a cheeseburger. You can do a barbecue with chicken. You can do Alfredo. There's 1,000.
Every single
ways.
one you just mentioned there is great pizza.
Oh yeah,
great flavor.
I know, but totally different.
Yeah.
And so you don't feel like you're eating the same thing. And so for a guy like me who likes variety, that's the perfect food.
Yeah.
Changing the toppings on that is way different than changing the toppings on a burger. Burger's still a burger.
Pretty much,
in a lot of way.
Right.
There are some things you can do. Cheeses.
Really, you're just adding in, rather than variety.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm working on right now. I just got to find enough. I got to find a good week to do it.
Yeah. Casey worked at Drop the H in Pittsburgh, and he was the kitchen manager.
Oh yeah.
So he made dough all the time.
Yeah.
So when I mentioned to him, I want to make some dough, he was borking at me with all the steps. I'm like, maybe you'll make the dough, because that sounds hard.
I need to hit him up. I did pizza for a long time when I was a kid. So I've done a lot. I can handle the dough, and I know how to roll it, and there's all that kind of stuff that is helpful.
There's slight stretching of it and all that. Resting and
even making the dough ball and pinching it, because you don't want to break the skin of it.
Yeah.
If you work it too many times, it starts to peel. It's hard to explain. There's a word for it.
It's like the gluten or something doesn't. It's supposed to be crossed or thatched or whatever. Yeah. Like the structure of the actual dough.
Right, but when you stretch it too much, it starts to open up and get holes in it. You don't want to do that.
Right.
You want it smooth, and that kind of traps everything inside, so that the chemical stuff that needs to happen on the inside happens.
The fermentation and he would know all of it.
Yeah.
His ingredient list was hilarious, because he's making pizza for a restaurant.
Oh, right.
So their dough is, their mixer's this freaking big, and they were doing it. I think they did it 3 days a week, and that would get them through the week. And I'm like, no, I just want 1 or 2 for me and Kelsey. I'm not trying to do a restaurant, bro.
I know, and that's why I'm planning on doing a week of it, because it does. If you're gonna spend that much time making it, you might as well make 8 dough balls,
right,
and then do a couple different pizzas.
Well, even 8 dough balls is is reasonable. Like
Right.
you can do it in a home kitchen and
Right.
store it, no problem.
Right.
But he was still he was making for a whole restaurant.
Yeah.
50 pounds of flour or something.
I know.
Like, get out of
Yeah.
here, dude. I don't want to know that.
Yeah. All that stuff matters. Like the bread flour and
Double lot, triple lot, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and even like with the ramen, it's the same way.
Salmonella.
There's
Salmonella.
vital wheat gluten is an ingredient that you use.
It's an addition.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, vital wheat gluten is something that you add to the ramen that helps it have that kind of springy texture. Yeah, 'cause it's not the same as a spaghetti noodle. Spaghetti noodle is kind of mushy almost when you bite it. Even when it's al dente, it's still like it has a softness to it. But there's a springiness to a ramen noodle, and some of that's it's the gluten content. It's a big part of what does that, I guess. But, yeah, I'm into all that
He
stuff.
recommended semolina flour or semolina flour. I don't even know what to Google it. But now that you say that, I remember on the package that I have, there's a label that says high in gluten, like really high in gluten.
Yeah.
And then you don't add very much at all. It's, I don't know, a fourth a cup or something. But with it in there, it somehow makes the pizza more stretchable, or I don't even know.
And it might be vital wheat. That might even be just like a vital wheat gluten or a substitute for it, maybe. You know? Yeah, there's multiple types of flour usually that you use in it. And it all makes a difference. But I like experimenting with some of that stuff because good food's fun to make.
It's always rewarding too.
Yeah.
You know, very rarely are you like, this tastes like crap. I don't think I can. It's always turned out good. It's like smoking meats.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's kind of dry. Still tastes really good.
Yeah, I just made a cold smoker.
What's that?
So cold smoker, you have the one I made, found the YouTube video, but a mocha pot that I had a big mocha pot, and you'd take the lid off of it and break off the pressure valve, and you replace the pressure valve with a pneumatic valve, and instead of and you break off the stem off the bottom of the ground cup.
Okay.
And then you fill the ground, instead of with ground, you fill it up with ground up wood pellets.
Okay.
And then you on the spout on top, it doesn't matter which one's an in, one's an out.
Oh right, yeah.
Doesn't matter which
For
direction it goes.
airflow?
Yes.
Okay.
But you light your pellets, and then that smoke goes out from there, and you pipe it into an ice chest.
Okay.
And then
Keeps the smoke cold?
Well, it keeps the food cold, so like you can smoke cheeses or like bacon's hard. I've made bacon a few times, and which is really funny to say. But I never got enough smoky flavor for me on my smoker.
Yeah.
I always wanted more smoke.
Yeah.
That's part of the fun of the.
Could you smoke it, like cold smoke it and then smoke it when you cook it?
Yeah.
Maybe that would be.
Well, it wouldn't have to. So cold smoking is a process people have been doing for a long time. And so what it is, the difference is there's no heat source. And so you keep your food cold.
So it doesn't cook.
Right, so it doesn't cook, but it's also safe because obviously you have to keep your food cold or make it hot, one of the two.
Right.
That middle ground's not good.
Right.
But if you have your heat source in with your food, it's going to get warmer.
And
so the whole idea of a cold smoker is your heat source is over here, the smoke goes
So
there,
it's getting the flavor, but not going through the whole,
And so you can smoke, so like you can put your pork belly in the cooler, you put ice in there, it stays cold, but it still smokes it. So I've done a little bit of cheese is all I've done so far. And I'm not good at it yet. So like I just got it made and I'm still working out the process of it. I feel like I over smoke. So there's the problem is the venting is an issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Because there's a what's it called? The creosote. When the smoke is in there too long, it makes a really acrid taste.
Oh right, yeah.
And so you want it to be there long enough to put it in the flavor, but it also needs to escape.
Right.
And I haven't figured out the right venting for it yet.
Like it's either too fast or too slow.
Right now I'm too slow.
Too slow.
And so
you get too much.
Yeah, and so you don't want the creosote on there. That makes it taste nasty. Yeah. It's like never cleaning your the basket on your coffee. Like if you're making drip. Mm-hmm. You know, you never clean that, and
you're
it gets the residue. Dude, you have to clean that, man.
Just kidding.
Not with soap.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
But you
like
got
cast iron, you know.
You got to rinse it out, man.
Yeah.
This is gross.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it starts getting sour.
Right.
You know, because of the residues on there, and it's similar to that where you get a nasty, get kind of a bad bitter flavor that you don't want.
Yeah.
And so I haven't figured out the venting part of it yet. I got to work that out. But
that's really cool, and like I just typed in cold smoker or whatever. But
they make all sorts of real things that you can buy, and like you can get an offset smoker. Like my smoker actually has a cold smoke box.
Oh, like your hot smoker.
Yes.
Like
yeah. So I've got a pellet smoker.
A pellet, yeah.
Yep, and it's like $400
to get the
offset.
addition.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's worth it. But I was gonna say, like, I've had friends Snapchat me like, I smoked some cheese, and I'm like, how did you smoke cheese, dude? Yeah. I don't know, and I don't think I ever did, because I probably have a story to tell you about how I melted it everywhere. But now it totally makes sense of like, oh, that's why it kept its shape. And this guy actually did it for Christmas, so he cut a bunch of slices off and then like paired them and then gave them to his family.
Right.
So it totally makes sense. But
so there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Yeah. So this guy here go back up. He took an old fridge.
Oh yeah.
And he's just piping the smoke in from the side, probably somewhere. I've seen the trash can ones. This is how I did my first cheese, and I did it in my smoker. Yeah, not that same one. Mine's called the Amazing tray, but you just take your pellets and you put it in. But I did it when it was 20 degrees outside. I just waited till a super cold day, and then I smoked a bunch of cheese on my actual smoker. But I used one of these trays because it has
buy a big old cheddar cheese block or something like that. Just a big old block of cheese.
Yep, got one in my fridge right now. I'm gonna smoke when I get a little bit of time. But mine I got a.
There's $1. He's using a cardboard box.
And that's the same principle. It doesn't have to be anything fancy.
Just keeping the smoke in a place.
Right. Yeah. And the idea with this is that then you're not adding heat to this box, but you also can't keep cold in that very well. Like you could put a tray of ice in there. That's why I wanted to use I had an old ice chest, and that wasn't using. I thought, well, I'll just pump it in, cut a hole or drill a hole in that, pump it in there, and then I can put a vent on top of some sort where I can control it, and it's just an air pump that pushes the air through the mocha pot, then through the hose into the ice chest. And so it's pretty cheap.
That's really cool
way of doing it, but it's a way of it's like this guy right here, so that it's just the smoke going in, but the heat is happening over here on the side.
Oh, okay. And so he's just using his grill.
He's just using his grill, right? And you can do that. And that's pretty much the way mine would work. If that might even I think that looks like it might be a Louisiana anyway, but
can't tell.
Yeah, it's pixelated there, but it looks like a Louisiana, which is what I've got. But all of them the principle is the same. Every one of them. So this one here, that's where the heat is, and the smoke travels through there into there. But you can see it's also venting.
That's cool. I never knew such a thing existed.
Yeah, it's a way.
I'm really fighting the urge to go home and do this right now.
Well, things like you can do salmon that way, but salmon you got to keep cold.
Right,
you got to keep it cool. But that way you can cook it later when you're ready to.
Yeah, it already has that flavor ready to go.
Yeah, and then when you throw it in there, you're like, you smell it.
You're ready for it,
dude. It's so good. So, but bacon, it's a great way to do bacon because bacon takes a long time, and I think that was the issue when I was making it before was it didn't have enough time.
To absorb.
220 it's still cooked too fast because the meat only absorbs. I don't remember the exact numbers, but there's a chemical change that happens in meat at a certain point where the part of it that takes in the smoke closes up.
Yeah.
And at that point it will not take any more flavor. That's what the smoke ring is.
Right. That
smoke ring happens whenever it hit that temperature. It's not going to take any more.
It's like the first hour or two.
Something
it's not
like
very
that.
long.
Right. And my smoker, whether I did something wrong or it's just not the right kind of smoker for it, I don't know. But there something was amiss, and it didn't get enough smoke. Not as much smoke as I wanted.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine made some. It's the best bacon I've ever had.
That's awesome.
Garrett Baher he did some, and it was black magic.
Oof.
Like it was. I didn't even share any with anybody. It was that good.
Dang.
Like it was so good.
And he cold smoked it?
No, he didn't even cold smoke it. But he has an offset smoker, and he was using some pretty dark wood. And but dude, it was
Aged a little bit.
Dude, it's stupid how good it was.
See, that's people don't understand. Like living in the country, we can do that kind of stuff.
I know.
Like, we can make
They're
our own
missing
bacon.
out, man. Yeah. Not everybody wants to try that kind of. All that stuff. I want to do all the things.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever the things that there are to do, I want to do them all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I when I get to thinking about, like, that's one of my favorite things about heaven that I think about. Like, people have all sorts of horrible ideas about heaven, like so many stuff. That's going to be this we're in the clouds in the sky with white robes and playing a harp all day long. Like, that's
for all eternity.
right. And that's awful. That's such an awful image. Like, to be stripped of like this wood. I keep feeling, because I love the grain of the wood. And I love this texture. I keep playing with it.
Yeah.
And, I love all the colors and the textures. Like, to have all that stripped away would be a punishment. Like, I would hate that. That'd be awful. But I love talking about it, because I like one of the things that when I get talking about heaven is the redemption of our bodies. That we believe that everything has been tainted by sin, that it got corrupted when Adam and Eve at the fall. It wasn't just them that were affected, but all of creation, because in Romans it says that all of creation waits and yearning for the redemption to happen, that the world will be fixed. And it's almost like the universe has a consciousness of some sort, and it knows. I mean, it's personification, but it's like it knows it's broken. And like thermodynamics and all that kind of stuff, everything's constantly in a state of decay, and it knows it's broken and breaking. And so sin affected this world in two ways. One, and it broke the world, but it also broke us. And there are things like, we know that there are this many colors in the universe, but we can only perceive with our eye this many. That anybody thought that there were this more blows my mind. Like the guy that figured out, there's things in water. It's clear but he thought, hey, I'm going to put this clear thing under a microscope. But somebody figured out that there are ultraviolet, and there's on the other end, I don't know what the other
gamma and
but there's
radiation
in both directions. There's all these colors that we can't see. And we also know that there are all these sounds. There's ultrasonic and infrasonic sounds that we can only hear this certain spectrum of sound, but there's all these other sounds that are out there that we can't hear. And there's all these tastes, all these smells, all these things, and like even as we age, we lose those things. Right. That's why adults tend to not like peanut butter, because we lose our taste buds die as we get older. That's why kids love peanut butter, but they hate coffee. And they hate spicy things, right? Because all their taste buds are firing, man. They taste all the things, and they taste them really well. But then as we get older, we're like, oh man, I kind of like coffee now. Yeah. Well, I hated it when I was a kid because it was bitter, right? And some of it was people didn't make it very well. I know that now.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be an entire day's worth of
YouTube tutorial of how to do it.
Yeah, but the what I believe is that one of the things that happens when we go to heaven is our bodies will be redeemed, and all of the things that are broken will be fixed. Not just that I won't need glasses, right, but that nobody, if they really think about it, thinks that it's going to be streets of gold. Right. And a pearly gate made out of a giant pearl. It says that.
Does it say that in the Bible?
Yeah.
Okay, I was always wondering where that came from.
Yeah, it says streets as of gold, and the foundation made of precious gems, and a gate made out of a single pearl. And it does talk about those things, but it's a vision. And I think about it in terms of, I remember reading a book in grammar class in middle school, where it says this kid is fishing off of a bridge, and this guy walks up to him, and the kid catches a fish, and he says, describe it to me. And the kid realizes that the guy's blind, and he caught a rainbow trout, which everybody knows you didn't catch a rainbow trout off of a bridge. Anybody fishes, but
that was my first thought. Plot hole.
I know, yeah. But he asked him to describe the fish, and think about if somebody was born blind, how would you describe a rainbow trout to him?
How would I? Slimy would be the first one.
What does slimy look like?
Oh, I'm describing how it looks.
Yes.
Not its essence. Yeah. I would say, Well, I would try to relate it to something like a baguette, like a loaf of bread, but obviously he hasn't ever seen one of those. So I would I'd probably just give it to him and be like, hold it, buddy. Here.
Right, but how do you explain the colors, like how the rainbow, the translucence of it, the shininess of it, how the colors blended into one? Like, yeah,
almost impossible.
Right. How do you explain something that he's never seen?
Right. That goes back to the reference, the relational universe.
Yes.
Because there's nothing to reference
from. Right.
It's red like an apple. It's red like a sunset. Like
the colors blend together. Well, what does colors blending together mean?
Yeah, right.
You
ever seen blended? Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so I think when John is given this view of heaven, I think that he was given allowed for a moment to have redeemed eyes. And he's seeing colors he's never seen before.
Right.
And it's going to be the most beautiful thing that he's ever seen. Well, how do you describe a color to somebody that they've never seen?
Just describe yellow to me.
Right.
Yeah, you have to relate it to something.
Right. And so if he's got this most beautiful thing he's ever seen, that's he's going to use the most beautiful things that we value the most, gold and precious jewels and the things that we like. That's what it's going to look like.
Right.
So I think that's part of it. There's no value in gold in heaven. There's no value in gems and precious jewels in heaven. No need for it. So there's no reason for it to be like showing off and flashy and look how much gold God has. Like, it won't matter there.
Right.
So there's no reason, but I think it's because he's given redeemed eyes. He's like, I got to figure out how to communicate this to people somehow.
Really, it's the limitation of language.
Yes, 100%. And so, I think he's given redeemed eyes and he's seeing colors he's never seen. And I think part of the joy, part of the fascination for me of heaven is going to be, it's going to be just like this, but better. Won't have any of there's not going to be any decay or sin, even the issues with our bodies, like my knee won't hurt, But beyond that, I'm going to, like an apple, which I already know right now, I'm going to taste with all of my taste buds active. Like, I love apples. I have one at home. I'm going to eat when I get home. Yeah. Well, I got this great bag, and every one of them's been great. I'm looking forward to it. When I get to heaven, I'm going to be able to eat an apple in a way that I've never eaten one before. It's going to be all brand new and amazing. And I'm going to see colors. When it talks about playing, there's going to be new songs that we sing. We're going to have all these tones that we've never used before. And people think about eternity as being boring. I'm like, we're going to have a universe to discover, and to discover with all of these new senses that are enhanced in ways we've never experienced before. And that gets me super excited. And so for somebody who loves trying all the things, it's the ideal place.
And it makes me think almost it's endless variation forever.
Yes.
It's just a continual creation of more stuff, more colors and more senses and more realities or whatever to explore. Like, it just goes on forever.
And I think it will be, my suspicion is that it will be space. Like, I was watching a video the other day talking about this. There's this island off of the coast of Spain. I don't remember what he called it, but there's a name for it. But it's like they've named it "Don't Go There." Because everybody who goes there dies because the water's all poisonous and there's plants that are poisonous.
Can't survive.
And it's just like the most lethal place on the planet,
kind
of a thing. Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find out what it was called and send that to you. But even like when you look at the picture of it on Google Maps, you look like, but this beach looks awesome. And then you see it from the water, and it's not a beach; it's this massive cliff.
Oh,
like
gosh.
There's like no use for this. For this location, but there's because nobody ever goes there. There's all these undiscovered species apparently on there. Yeah, and I'm like, that's the whole universe. Yeah. Like, when we have enough time, we will get to space travel. Musk is getting pretty close. He's blowing people's minds, I guess, with this new
Neuralink.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's. But this new ship that he just did.
Oh yeah, not the brain connection.
No, this new ship that he just did. I guess NASA
One
is
of the
just
Falcons or whatever.
freaking out about it, because it's reusable. This one he's wanting to go to Mars with is a shuttle.
Yeah, right. I like a true shuttle, like
Yes.
back and forth. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
multiple trips.
Right,
kind
like
of
a shuttle you take from the hotel to the whatever.
Yeah, and well, just like the space, like we used to use rockets to get to the moon. Well, not like to get to space. Let me say that. We've been in the
You don't think we went to the moon?
Let's not get into that. Oh my gosh. But we used to use rockets to get to space, but then we switched to shuttles.
Yeah.
And originally,
that's true.
originally it was thought that Mars was going to be a one-way trip, but
Right.
Musk was like, "Why?"
Yeah.
You know, he's blowing their mind. But even things like I love Star Trek and
Yeah.
like all that kind of stuff, and that whole idea of, is there some sort of energy source that we haven't figured out, tapped into, but when we do, we're going to go, like we can have, or like Dune. Oh, dude, I love.
Did you like the adaptation?
Oh, I loved
HBO's? I thought it was good.
Oh, HBO's. I didn't see it.
The new one. Oh, I mean, I guess it wasn't HBO. That's where I watched it.
You watched it on
That's
HBO.
right.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm excited for the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. There were parts of it I didn't like.
You read the books, I'm assuming.
Yeah. But that gives you an advantage.
Okay.
I think there were parts of it. The one thing I feel like, well, I can't remember his name, but made the one 84, 85, whatever. One thing I liked better about his was the narration at the beginning that kind of explained who the guild was and all that kind of stuff.
Kind of set the stage.
Yeah, and kind of explained folding space a little bit better. And like I feel like some of that stuff, if you didn't go into it, I'm just curious to know, somebody who didn't know all the backstory, would they
This guy.
would
I
they
haven't read
understand?
the books.
Oh, you haven't?
Mm-mm.
So yeah, I don't. I feel like a person I don't know how to explain it. I feel like you would be a little bit confused as to why spice was that important.
Definitely. Like, I was definitely confused, but in a sense of, I trusted the filmmakers because they answered questions along the way.
Yes,
so I
there
was
were a
like,
lot of
I'll
them.
just be in confusion for a while. But there is still a lot of confusion, like people coming back to life and being weird ghost-looking things.
Yeah, the deal with the space travel. So one thing that's interesting about Dune that people don't realize is there are no aliens in Dune. Everybody's a human, and what happened was, everybody evolved in different paths.
Right.
You have the Mentets and but one of the big issues is since thinking computers were outlawed.
Oh, is that why okay? So that's a question I had.
There was a rebellion. So there was AI, and there was a battle between humans and thinking computers, where the computers did revolt. And so they had what do they call it? Like an Inquisition type thing.
Yeah.
Where they eradicated all thinking computers, and that's why there's no computers.
Okay, so 10 minutes into the movie, it pops up. It's like 10,000 AD, and I was like, bullshit. If we are that far, we're gonna be. But that makes sense. Like, that actually fills in the gap to the question I had of, why aren't we synthetic, weird, multiverse, metaverse type?
Yeah.
Well, we outlawed them. Interesting.
Right.
Now I got to read the books now.
Yeah. So what happened was that because of that rebellion, they destroyed all. They outlawed thinking computers, but that's why the Mentats came through. Is it developed as they're human computers. They process things super fast because you can't have a calculator anymore.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like
so they
kind
made
of
up
thing.
for it,
Right.
In a way.
But how do you have space travel? How do you do super fast space travel? But like, you got to be able to calculate all these things that might be in your way to go from this end of the universe to this end of you've got planets and asteroids and stuff like that. That's one of the, like, everybody's always joked about, why doesn't the Millennium Falcon hit a planet on the way?
Light speed?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you can't, like, too late to go, oh,
very much too late.
right. So the computer does all that stuff, plots out your course for you in advance. And so what they figured out was they can fold space, which is that whole mind-blowing thing of, instead of traveling linearly from here to there super fast, they bring A to B.
Yeah, and you travel normal speed.
But the Space Guild is the one that does it, and that's so those great big cylinders that all those ships come out of that are up in space, that are massive. That's one of the beauties of it, is when you fold space, size doesn't matter because you don't have to. There's no fuel You don't have to. There's no propulsion system, so you can have this massive ship that's full of. It's a big cargo. It's a big cargo container. Really, is what it is. Or what are those shipping container ships?
Oh yeah, the ocean liners, the freight ships.
Yeah, it's a massive freight liner that just goes from here to there, but it doesn't actually technically ever move. So you can fill it with as much as you want.
It doesn't move?
No. It goes from, they fold space. And
it moves a little bit, like it just like from here to there.
It's more like teleporting than moving.
You're right.
Because it isn't actually travel anywhere. It's.
Oh wait, I get you.
It's like the ship is right here,
and then they just by bending space they move
you need
it.
to go here.
Yeah.
So instead of this traveling along this paper all the way from A to B,
Yeah.
you move A to B,
and then
then it's
fold
there.
it back.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so, but one of the evolutions is the space guild, that they're the ones that can fold space.
Oh, okay.
But they're only able to evolve that way because of the spice.
Okay.
Well, all of space travel depends on the people that can fold space.
Yeah.
And they're dependent on spice.
Yeah.
So all of commerce in the entire universe depends on spice. Because without the spice, there's no space guild. With no space guild, there's no space travel, because you can't travel light speeds without risk.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why control of
that planet.
Yeah, I just totally lost it. All I can think of it is House Atreides. But anyway.
It's the only place that has spice?
Yes.
Yeah. And big worms guard it?
Yeah, well, they make it.
Oh, the worms make it?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Well, I'm reading the books now.
Dude, it's awesome. It's super fascinating. But I love all that kind of stuff. But the whole idea of having this whole universe to explore.
Right.
And like, who knows what kind of cool stuff might be on other planets and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know. I can't guarantee that's what heaven's going to be like. But
yeah.
I have a pretty sneaking suspicion that that's what it's going to be like.
Dude, I could burn easy million years just replaying my life and doing different stuff, you know, or playing like I'll play your life, you know, just like what was it like to win the first hole cup thing, your disc golf, like what was it? I know, just like that. I always told Casey and I when we were at the campsite, I could spend forever doing top 10s. Like, give me the top 10 like people falling down stairs of all of human history, and then God tosses it up and is like, this guy, he ate it the worst. Like, we'll play it. I want to see it. Dude, I could do that forever.
That's a disturbingly large amount of my YouTube playlist.
Fails.
Oh God.
Dude, that's what Kelsey and I put on when we have dinner. Like if it's a quick dinner, it's like just put on a fail or two. I love them
all day long.
I learn from them.
Dude, all day long. It's terrible. But
I categorize them.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In my head, I'm like, this is either like there's unlucky, just like bad timing, like wrong place, wrong time. There's stupidity, like okay, this could have been avoided, and you're just too dumb to see it. And there might be there's I guess you would call it like negligence of another person that just this person's stupidity got you, unfortunately. And so every time I'm watching, I'm like, okay, he couldn't have helped that, or learn from that. Don't do that, Colton. Yeah,
the one that I just watched was the title was if it hadn't been for the video camera, how would you ever explain this?
Oh yeah.
And you watch this video. There's a gal and a guy checking out at a convenience store, gas station, and there's a register person that has the plastic, and all of a sudden these two go like this, and something hits really fast. You're like, whoa, what was that? There's a guy down this aisle that was grabbing something. He dropped a 2-liter of pop, and when it hit, it popped open the lid and it goes shot like a rocket, and it smacks that plastic shield, that COVID shield, so hard. And you can almost read the guy's lips. Like you can't see that the quality's never that good, but you know,
security cameras and stuff.
Right, but you can tell him. You can tell he goes, dude, that would have killed you if it hadn't been for that shield.
I mean, that's why that is one of those. It makes me think of that iguana movie in the liquor store. Just like a giant iguana, just like crawling on the bottles and knocking them off.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
It's like, what would you tell your insurance guy? Like, dude, this lizard came in and knocked off.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
Yeah, I did see that one. Yeah, that's funny. I've seen too many of them.
I love them, and they just keep coming in because everyone's got a phone.
I know.
I love it.
I know. Yeah, it's like funniest home videos without having to wait for Thursday night.
It is every day, and then there's I've never found the bottom. There's that. There's videos I found on Reddit. There's the fails. There's wins. When people actually succeed.
Yeah, dude. When you talk about not
people dying inside, that was a good one.
You just. I did this deal one night. I got bored, and so when on Amazon Prime, when you look at a movie and then you're looking at the description, and then down here says people who like this also the recommendeds. Mm-hmm. One night I decided I'm going to see how far this. Where will this take me if I keep
just
going?
recommending and recommending.
Just keep clicking. Like I'll start with one that I kind of like. And
yeah.
I'll go. People also watch this.
Yeah.
And then I kept doing it. I found the most hilarious place. Oh, you might appreciate it, but I found some of the most comically bizarre, like really bad movies.
Oh, I believe it.
That are awesome.
Like D movies, like way down the list.
Like
or worse than D?
Worse than D.
Gee, on Amazon?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the first one I found was Where Skeeto, Nazi Hunter.
That's awesome.
It had a single
What
location.
did you start with, by the way?
That was the first. Oh, I don't even remember.
The initial good movie.
Yeah, I don't even remember. But I ended up, Where Skeeto, Nazi Hunter was the first one I watched. And
you watched it?
Oh, dude, I watched it.
You watched it?
I watched all of them.
Dude, I just would have watched a trailer.
Dude. Velocipaster.
Okay, I've seen that one on a meme before.
That one I watched because the description is awesome. when it says that a disavowed priest travels to China where he finds out that he's been gifted the ability to turn into a dinosaur. A local prostitute convinces him to fight crime and ninjas.
Oh my God.
I was so angry. I was like, I have to watch this movie.
Yeah, right. Like, I didn't clear my schedule.
There's about 5 minutes of it that I wish I hadn't watched.
Yeah. The transformation of Velociraptor.
No, the vulgarity of this one spot. I'm like, golly,
right.
I've heard enough of that.
What year was it made in? Do you know?
2017 maybe.
Oh, so these are really new.
This one, most of these are
pretty fairly new.
Yeah,
that's funny.
One of them was Spaghetti Man.
Okay.
Where it's Spider-Man, but instead of getting bitten by a radioactive spider, he eats radioactive spaghetti. But he's a totally awful human being.
Oh, no.
And so instead of using his power for good, he uses it to extort people.
Oh, my gosh.
And he's like, every time this lady's getting kidnapped, and he's like, hey, leave her alone. And he's like, the kidnapper's like, well, what are you going to do about it? And he goes, well, for a certain fee, I'm willing, I'll rescue her. And she's like, I only got $60. Or she's like, well, how much? He goes, $60. And she goes, I've only got 40. He's like, all right.
Close enough.
So he shoots spaghetti, but instead of shooting webs, he shoots spaghetti out of his hands. Knocks out the victim, but when he does, he drops her. She falls down and is also unconscious. So he just stands there and waits
till she
comes. And then he's like,
jeez. See, that is a result of the democracy. How do you say that? The democratic. The filmmaking technology has become more democratic over time because you can shoot 4K on your phone.
Right.
And back in the day, those were like short stories that someone wrote down in their journal and then
never got developed.
Right. Posted on Reddit or like a forum page. Like that's hilarious. Now you can actually make them real and watchable.
Yeah. One of my favorites, I showed this to youth group, is Space Captain of Space.
Mm-hmm. Space Ghost.
Dude, you need to pull up the first part of that.
Space Captain?
Space Captain of Space. Go to YouTube, and you don't want the trailer is way too long to watch all of it, but dude, it is clearly not intended to be taken seriously. Like most of these aren't.
Right. They understand.
Yeah, Inhumanwich. That was one of them.
I just want to know who's making these.
Dude, one of my friends knows one. So one of them that I really like, one of my favorite ones. Is the Monster of Phantom Lake, which had a friend of mine knows the director. 120. Yeah, you gotta.
This is the trailer.
Yes. Yeah. You'll know in the first 5 seconds that it's not.
It's like almost like Robot Chicken or something.
Yeah.
Moody. All black and white.
Oh yeah.
Radial novulation for increased liminium flow. Yeah, what is that? Well, it's for the electroradial levels too. Dr. Middleton, are you just making stuff up because you don't want to admit that you can't fix the problem? It must be that meddlesome insect rocky laser.
Yeah, 2020. Dude.
But I hate those things. Can't I just be amazing? No.
Like, as bad as it is,
It's awesome.
good though.
Dude,
you know?
it's
like,
so awesome because it doesn't take itself seriously. At
No,
all.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it would be hard to make something like this.
Complete my explosion ray. A ray that causes things to explode. Indeed, I do, my love.
And you watched it on Amazon, so this is like on Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
This gives me hope.
Dude, it's hilarious. I love it. Another one. So that Monster Phantom Lake one, his entire
There it is,
budget.
Amazon, right on.
Yeah. The Monster Phantom Lake had a budget of $120.
Huh?
And most of it was spent on the costume for
Mm-hmm.
the monster, which they bought it was a black tarp, a 5-gallon bucket, a roll of duct tape, and some Brillo pads for the eyes. And that was, then the rest of it was like pizza for the crew kind of a thing.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
but it's kind of a throwback to the old original monster movies like Werewolf and Dracula and stuff like that, where and even Alien
Yeah.
followed that model of it's all about the anticipation of the monster,
Oh,
which
the
doesn't ever actually
reveal.
show up until the late in the movie. You know, the old ones, it was all about when are you going to see this horrible thing? And it was hideous. And
Yeah.
like, oh,
Right.
that
Oh, you caught a glimpse of the
terrifying.
arm or something.
Yeah. Because Alien, you don't ever see it really until the very end.
Oh, you just hear it. It's
Yeah.
just horrifying.
Yeah, and of course in Aliens, it's everywhere, and it's also.
It's the
great,
same
but-
with Predator, it's just
Yeah.
not until the very end where
Yeah.
it takes its mask off and you finally see this
Yeah, and then
thing.
Yeah, it's not all about the jump scares and stuff like that. But so it's modeled off of that kind of an idea, but it's clearly not intended to be taken seriously. Like they're just kind of like they have tropes that they do. Like anytime somebody has a flashlight, they hit it and then they shine it in their face every
Right,
time. Every time.
yeah.
Like.
That's so funny.
But my favorite part about it is they made it into a musical, which I watched. I laughed so hard. My wife came down from our bedroom's on the 3rd floor.
Oh, wow.
I laughed so hard, belly laughing. She came down like, "What are you laughing at?"
Like,
And I
are
said,
you
"Sit
okay?"
down. You got to watch this. This
Yeah.
is so fun." And then she ended up watching a lot more of it than she intended to.
Right.
I would pay good money to have somebody locally do that performance. It's hilarious.
Really?
Dude,
What's
love
it called?
It's called The Monster of Phantom Lake.
Phantom Lake.
But they made The Monster of Phantom Lake the musical, which is so hilarious.
Oh, it's a whole nother production.
It's the same movie, same people, but they made it into an
a
actual
musical?
musical.
Wow.
And the musical is hilarious. That's what I belly laughed to was
Yeah.
the musical. The movie was fun. It's
Yeah.
chuckles. You
Right.
know? I mean, it's over the top, intentionally cheesy.
Yeah.
They're not taking themselves seriously. But,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I ended up going down that rabbit hole just from how far, if I keep following this and keep clicking these, where will I end up? And then I found, to me, it was a gold mine.
Yeah.
It was.
It led you to a good place.
Oh yeah. Well, you got to be careful because a lot of those low budget movies like that, for somebody like me, not a great place to be in sometimes because a lot of times those low budget ones they like doing the
On
nudity
the
just
edge
for,
of, I was going to say.
yeah. Propriety for me is
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm not watching that one.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're pretty good. They're
Yeah.
pretty fun. They don't take themselves too seriously, and there's not a lot of
That's
stuff.
a world I haven't spent much time in,
Dude,
Like,
but
I probably need to.
You would appreciate it as
Yeah.
a filmmaker,
Right.
and Like I could tell you were vibing off of Space Captain.
Yeah, it's just, well, I can see it on different levels. Like I'm seeing a production level, and then like these guys are acting, the lines are delivering. Like that was hilarious. Like,
yeah,
who wrote that? You know?
Yeah, the middle of it's kind of slow.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning of it's hilarious, and there's a couple of tropes that they put in there that are their own that are just really funny. Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm probably gonna do the same thing you did. Just pick a movie and just see how far I can go.
Just see where it goes. Yeah. And you kind of get to decide how ridiculous do I want to go by, which ones you start picking. And at first, it keeps coming back to kind of the same ones.
Right.
But eventually, I think the algorithm, I don't know if it learns. You know, who knows? That I'm trying to get out of this loop, but eventually you get out of the loop. And you start going, these are new.
Really exploring.
Oh, these are new. Oh,
right.
These are new.
Yeah.
And then my grandma was a were-skunk.
That's the first one I'm watching.
Yeah. There's a couple of others that I can't remember the names of some of them, but there's several of them that were notable. Killer Sofa.
Nice.
I actually watched all of that one. What about Pinata?
Comes to life.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
I'm definitely checking them out.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it.
Good. We've done 3 hours.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I was wanting to know your like practices and I guess like the thoughts on prayer. Like the difference between like thinking, like good vibes, you know, like people say like good vibes, and you know, if you think positively or whatever, what's the difference between that and prayer? And then more specifically, like, how do you pray as the leader of a spiritual group?
Yeah, I did something at one point with the youth group that, I don't know, in some ways it was a terrible idea. Because I'd read this book at one point by Larry Dawsey, who was a heart surgeon, and he was a believer, but he was curious to know, did prayer do anything? You know, is there a measurable effect of it, or is it just a placebo? And so he was curious to know if it had any effect on the recovery rates or the survivor rates of his patients. And so he wanted to do some real testing. And sorry, my ADD just totally kicked in. I'm looking at your moon, and I'm thinking about the fact that there shouldn't, all the white's supposed to be stars, but they shouldn't be in between me and the moon. They should all be behind it. It should be silhouetted. Sorry.
That's paint plaster, bro.
Dude. It just, part of me just going, oh. Anyway.
If you look behind you, there's a psychedelic jellyfish.
Oh, awesome. I love it. My literal brain just was struggling with it.
Yeah.
It was working in the background out apparently, and it finally said, hey, pay attention to me for a second. I was like, oh yeah, that's why that was puzzling me. But it's not ethical to, like, how do you do a real control test to see if people are being affected? It's not ethical to say, we're not going to pray for this patient. To ask people, don't pray for this person, but we're going to pray for these people to see if it makes a difference.
Yeah, right.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
And it's not a control test anyway, because you don't know if cousin Joe, who's a believer and loves his aunt or whatever, is praying for that person. So it's not an actual control test anyway.
Like additional prayers.
People that you don't know about that are praying for that person.
Right.
And so you can't really do a control test to see if it makes a difference. And so he actually got his team together, and they did all these different tests with Petri dishes, which is comical if you think about it. And they put bacteria in there, and they had them pray to enhance the growth of one, or to slow down the growth of one. And they did tests where they did it where they had an immediate line of sight. Some of them where it was in like a lead box, and they did it where people that were praying for them were 5 miles away. You know,
and this
did proximity.
Christian based.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he's a scientist. He's a surgeon. Like, you know, so he wanted to be able to have, like, can we get control results from these where something actually happens? And it's comical to think about it, that you have this almighty creator of the universe, and you're asking him to not grow bacteria.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay. And he did it. And they actually got marked results from it that were scientifically tracked. And so I repeated that in a very hokey way with chia pets.
Nice.
I got the youth group together and we named 3 chia pets, and I put the exact same stuff. I treated them all exactly the same way, and we prayed, you know, for them to see if we could get any different results. And I'm embarrassed to say that I did that in some ways, because in some ways you're not supposed to do that. Like, in some ways it goes against testing the Lord, and it kind of is a test a little bit, but he humored me, and we got results. I got pictures of it. I still have the chia pets because I'm never getting rid of those, because it blows me away that he did it, that he was willing to do that. We were going to repeat it a couple of years ago, but this time I asked, you know, maybe we should ask his permission first this time, since I didn't really do that the first time. I kind of did, but I didn't, not a lot. And I asked the kids. The kids actually decided, we feel like, because they heard the testimony of the older kids that were there when we did it the first time, they felt like that testimony is enough for us. Right. We're willing to go off of their testimony of what they saw and what they witnessed, and we don't need to do it again. So they actually voted to not repeat, which I thought was really cool. I love the maturity of the students for doing that. But so
Cramp. Did you get a Charlie horse in the back of your leg?
My hamstrings. They're at pop.
That was your hamstring?
Yeah.
I was gonna invite you to
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. I was gonna say come roll at jiu-jitsu, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, that pop was.
That's wild.
I've never had that happen.
That was your leg?
Holy cow! That was my hamstring.
I thought it was like your knee or something. It knotted up, and
it might have been my knee from that tension on there.
Yeah. Could be. I heard the pop,
dude.
You good?
Yeah. I had to get up. That was.
I didn't know what was going on.
Wow, that was insane. So, so I do believe that it is different than just good vibes. Although Dossie, one of the interesting things about it is, Dossie does talk about, he even later, after the success with that, he tried it with different faiths, and he tried it with people who weren't believers, and it was really interesting. Like, they even did stuff with plants and stuff like that, and it'd be an interesting read.
He wrote a book on it.
Yeah, it's called Healing Words. I think it's the first one. And his name is Larry Dossey, Dr. Larry Dossey, Dossey. But he, it was super interesting, and I've had quite a few interesting experiences with prayer, and you know, I know people who, you know, there was a family at when I was in high school. Like, this lady had a tumor the size of an orange, and she was gonna have to go down to the Mayo Clinic, and like, they were like last hope kind of a thing, and they prayed over her, and she went down there, and they were like, "Hey, you sent the wrong X-rays," and they're like, "No, these are the right ones." They're like, "Well, that's not in you." And you're like, how's that even happen? You can't explain that kind of a thing. Right. But the hard thing is not everybody has that. Like, that's one of the difficulties with prayer, is not everybody gets that result. Sure. And that makes people very skeptical and cynical, you know, at times. But I do believe that prayer is a real thing. It's difficult. It's a faith-stretching thing at times. And there's a humility that's required in it, that he's sovereign, can do whatever he wants, and he doesn't have to explain himself to me. And there's a book that I love, it's one of my favorite books, called He's God and We're Not, and it's all about the sovereignty of God, and it reminds us of some really powerful truths, those gut ones that I was talking about, where this is one of those modern books that has some of those deep truths that I love. Where like, God doesn't have to treat me the way that he treated me yesterday. No, he is constant, he's immutable, he is the same today, yesterday, and forever. But he doesn't have to treat me tomorrow the same way that he treats me today. He doesn't have to treat me the same way that he treats my neighbor. He doesn't have to answer my requests the way that I want him to. Like, there's all these sovereignty issues that we have to address and have to be aware of when we pray. And some of it is just a matter of trust, that if he chooses not to do it the way that I want him to, his way is always going to be right and proper. I'm just not always going to understand it. And that's part of the bitterness of prayer for some people, is we don't want it to work that way.
Yeah.
I want you to do it my way, and I want it now. And that's how I want prayer to work. But that's not how prayer works. And that's part of the difficulty with prayer is learning some of those lessons and just learning how to trust. You know, the people that I am just always impressed by are the ones who have prayed and not received what they wanted, but still love and trust the Lord anyway. This amazes me, you know, and I think that's a great testimony, not only to them, but I think it's also a testimony that hope still lives in spite of that. People who don't have that kind of hope, all the people that I know that don't have that hope and that trust and that understanding that God is still good, even though this bad thing happened to me, those people survive the bad stuff in ways that I've never witnessed anybody who doesn't have that hope and that trust, that confidence. It breaks them. I've witnessed it time and time again in my friends who are believers and my friends who are not, that their ability to cope with tragedy is so much better. That void, going back to Aaron's thing, that can be catastrophic for people. It can ruin them, and they lose who they are. They don't ever recover from it. They're never ever able to. I think about it like when you have that void and you take thread and you reconnect these things, and then you pull the thread away, and it closes that up.
Right.
And now there's new connections made. I think faith does that for people. And if you don't have faith, I don't know how you would do it.
There's no thread.
That's to me, that thread is the thing that fixes some of those holes in ways that not having faith can't do it. I've never seen it. If there is something, I've not seen it. I've not witnessed. I've not read about it.
Right.
I've not heard of it.
Right.
People try to do it with substances and all sorts of things, but none of that satisfies in that way. So I don't know if that answers the first part of your question or not, but that I believe prayer is a real thing. I've experienced in my own life, and I don't understand all of it. And I wish it were more black and white, but it's not. And I don't get to make it any different than what it is. I just have to learn how to work with it the way that it is. So there's a humility in that. As far as my own practice, man, you know my personality. I don't have one thing that I do. My favorite is actually the same guy that wrote that book that I was talking about on He's God, We're Not, has a book on prayer. It's actually called, it's a horrible title. I'm surprised I even read it. It's called Praying the Scriptures, which even as a pastor, I read it, I go, ugh.
Yeah.
Right. It sounds boring as can be, and, you know, but it's not at all. I say it's a terrible title because it's not even really what he does. He doesn't use it to say, read scriptures as your prayers. He just says use prayer. Let me back up a little bit. One of the biggest issues people run into when they pray is, if we're going to pray about things, we're going to pray about the same things often. Like, I'm going to pray for my relationships, people that matter to me. I'm going to pray for my wife. I'm going to pray for my kids. I'm going to pray for my friends. I'm also going to pray for people who are sick. And, you know, those things are going to change as people no longer are sick or, whatever. I'm going to pray for our country. I'm going to pray for my church. I'm going to pray the things that matter to me. I'm going to pray for those on a regular basis. But the problem is when you pray about the same things, and we also tend to use the same words. So I'm praying about the same things in the same way, using the same words. Boring, right? We get bored with it, and then we also feel like it's a little futile. I just keep repeating myself when I just record it and just hit play.
I feel bad for God.
Right.
Like, hey, here's the same thing.
Right. Yeah. It's not. Nobody really likes that.
Yeah.
And in some ways, we feel like the same way. Where if I say the exact same thing to express to my wife that I love her every time, I don't ever do it in a different way. I feel like at some point she's going to feel like it's not, like I don't really mean it, And so, the way that he uses this process is, instead of just praying the same thing about the same things, the same way, using the same words, says, like one of the examples he uses is the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leads me, as an example. So you use that as a springboard to lead you into new words. I'm still praying about the same things. I'm never not going to pray for my church. I'm not ever not pray for the people who are sick. I'm never going to not pray for my boys and my wife. And but like when it says, the Lord, and it's kind of a stream of consciousness thing a little bit. If when I read the Lord and something comes to my mind, I pray about that.
You allow it to guide you. And
I keep going with that thing until I don't have anything more to say about it. And then I said, the Lord is my shepherd. And then when I get to the word shepherd, if that sparks, like whenever I tell people about this one, I think I use that one as an example that I'm grateful for the men and the women, but particularly there's a few men in my mind that I'm grateful are in my boys' lives. Because they're mentors that I'm proud for them to have. And I know that if my boys ever have an issue that they don't want to talk to me about, that might be who they talk to. And that's where I want them to go, because I trust them. I trust them to be thoughtful and mindful and careful with them, and to give them good wisdom. And they're godly men. I can't think of anybody else I would rather. There are other people. Sure. But I would never be disappointed for my boys to go to those guys. And they are shepherds for my sons. And so when I'm doing that, then now I'm praying for my sons, but I'm doing it in a way that I never would have prayed that prayer on my own. My brain wouldn't have gone there. I would have said, hey, I pray for my boys, pray that they, be.
But the word shepherd triggered
the thought.
Yeah. The thought.
And so I pray that. And then I'm thankful for the shepherds in my life. I'm thankful for the old dead guys that are shepherds that I don't even know. I've never met them, but I still appreciate them. And I pray that he would continue to put such people like that into my life, who will guide me and direct me and protect me, and help me to be a good shepherd to other people. And I keep talking about that until I don't have anything else to pray about that. And then you move on. Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. What do I want right now? Are they good things or are they not good things? What do I want for my boys? Even I might pray for my boys again. I want them to have a woman in their life that's going to be awesome for them. Just the joy of their life. And does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you hang out on that word until you know what else to say, and then you move on. But I even expanded it. It was kind of by accident a little bit, or we'll call it inspiration.
Epiphany. One
of the girls that Levi was dating goes to First Christian in Baxter, and she's really big into helping to stop sex trafficking. And so she was doing this project for school for it, and so she invited us to come, and we watched. And when she'd show some statistics about it, and then she'd ask us to pray for about this specific thing, and she'd play music while it was happening, and she'd show statistics, and she'd ask us to pray about this specific thing, and she'd play music. But it annoyed me at first because it was lyric music. It was worship music.
Yeah, so you weren't able to...
Yeah, I'm like, when I'm hearing that, but then I thought, in some ways, I'm still praying about the same thing. And I've kind of prayed myself out after the first 2 times. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. What if I did that praying the scriptures thing, with the song. And so like one of the songs was, I will praise you in the storm. And so I used that word, the storms triggered something for me. And I'm like, man, these kids know storms. Like it feels, their life probably feels so out of control. Like there's nothing they can do about it. Yeah. I can't do anything about a storm. I can't control it. I can't stop it. All I can do is try to find shelter from it. But they can't even shelter themselves from the storm that's in their life. And it probably feels so out of control. And so it gave me new words to pray for these kids that I never would have found on my own. And then, so after doing that, I thought, man, like where else can I go with this? And so I pray a lot of times I'll pray my environment. I'll use that as my muse to bring fresh words into my life. Like I remember one time I was on my porch and I was praying, and there was it was windy, big surprise. And there was an Amazon box from who knows where that was tumbling across, and I was noticing that willow tree across the road that was blowing, and I got thinking about how, man, sometimes my life feels like it's out of control, like that box. And but then it made me think about, so I prayed about that for a little bit, and then I thought about how in John it talks about how the Holy Spirit is like the wind. You can't tell where it's going or where it's coming from, and then I got to thinking, well, maybe my life isn't out of control. Maybe I'm just going with the wind, which is what I should do. But if I resist the wind, I'm actually going against God, and I need to be a little bit more like that willow tree, which is just moving with the wind. And it reminded me of a scene from what's his name? Jet Li, Legend, or maybe it's I Am Legend. It's one of those two. He's a karate guy, and they do all the challenges, and he kills somebody, so he runs away and meets this blind girl, and he's very kung fu. Oh, dude, it's the trope of all of those Chinese kung fu movies. That and the bully Americans that come in, and but they're planting rice, and of course everybody else is just going at an easy pace, and he's like and competing with them, and he gets done with his way faster, but he looks back and it's all a mess, and theirs are all in like perfect rows, and but then at one point this breeze kicks in, and it's like a Sabbath moment for them where they all just stop. When the breeze comes in, they all just stop and they just go. And then when the wind quits, they go back to work. And he's looking around like, what the heck, what are they doing? But then later in the movie, he's found his zen, and when the wind comes, he stops and he just pauses and just soaks it in. And so I thought, I need to be more like that. I need to be more present and aware of the wind in my life and the way that God is directing me and trying to push me. And if I'm fighting it, that's not good. Sometimes the best thing to do is just go with it. And that's the most beautiful thing that I get, because a willow tree, I love willow trees. That's why I planted one in my yard.
Yeah, the one across the street's awesome. It's from you.
It's great. Yeah, mine's growing, but it's still a pup. But I've always loved willow trees, and I love how they flow, and it's just so fluid, and they're not a very linear growing tree. They tend to be. I love trees, man. I love them. But that's. I do that, or even if I think about it, man, it's cold, and I don't want my heart to be cold towards these people. I feel like I've grown cold to these people, and keep me sensitive to them and loving them in a way I need to love those people. Or if my heart's grown cold to you, or I'll just anything in the environment. Yeah, the light, they're almost the dark,
like writing prompts. They're like prayer prompts. Yep, they're just like a stepping point to get going. And
yeah, exactly. It's just a muse that just gets me started, and it just puts new words in my mouth, and that's my favorite way to do it. I journal sometimes. I pray quick prayers sometimes just when I need to, and so that's sort of my personal practice goes. That tends to be what I default to. I don't do the scripture one very often. Sometimes I will return to that, and I'll go through it. I'll get a psalm, and he even gives like some ways to even go through and which ones to pick. And so it's not just a flipping with the Holy Spirit. I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah, Levi was father to,
Yeah, oh man. And they went and slaughtered all the infants, and I don't want to pray that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, that tends to be my main practice. Is
It's really cool.
I tend to do that because it suits my personality well.
Mm-hmm. It's cool. It makes it praying. It seems like it make it praying more dynamic.
Yeah,
like you said, it's not the same prayer because that nailed me on the head. That's I pray for my mom. I pray for my dad.
Right, yeah.
Over and over again. So if you could color it up and spice it up a little bit, and then loosen yourself up to, like you said, just to kind of discover what you need to address or what you want to cover. Like I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and it even broadens even things like in the example with the shepherds and my boys. Usually when I'm praying, like I don't know if I ever would have gone to that place in my prayers with the boys on my own.
Right.
But when I do it that way, I'm praying for my boys, but I'm praying for something that really does matter to me. Like I am glad that they have good people pouring into them and teaching them and guiding them and who love them. Like you want people who love your kids the way that you love them and want them to excel and want to, like when my boys are away from me, I want people that are guardian lions for them the same way that I am. Yeah. Whenever I'd go on trips with the kids, like, those were my kids when I'm, because if I ever sent my kid on a trip with somebody, I would want somebody to be like, I'm a sheepdog. And if anybody goes to lay a hand on your kid, I'm taking them out, I'm taking them down. We're having an issue, and I want those kind of people in my life for my boys. But I don't know if I necessarily would have gone to that place in my prayers without that kind of a prompt. Sure. And so it opens up even praying for people or for things in a different way that I might not have. Like you pray for your mom, and there are things that you pray about that you think about, but then when you use these prompts, like I said, sometimes you pray for things for your mom that you never would have thought about it ahead of time, but you're really glad that you prayed about that for her, and you think that's an appropriate thing to pray for my mom about. Yeah, right. So that's whenever I talk about prayer, that's usually where I go. I like trying to teach that to people and give that to people and try to get people to buy into that. And
it's fascinating and seems like very applicable to people that do pray.
Yeah, it's an easy thing to do to, like, and it's not, I don't know, so much teaching about praying is, I hate to use the word lifeless, but it feels very stoic and sterile. Yeah. And it's all about discipline and stuff like that. But I don't think it's supposed to be just about discipline. I think some of it's supposed to be about relationship. Right. I don't know.
So much of it's, for me, is based off when, like, growing up for me, it was always requests. Yeah. And that to me is like, wow, I don't know. It's hard for me to request continually. Right. And then if we're supposed to have a relationship, it's like, all I'm doing is just like, here's my wish list, So that's why I ask, mainly because when I was dedicated, I was prophesied to be a prayer warrior. So I've thought about that a lot. Like, what do I do? What am I supposed to be doing? And I've participated in a Native American church quite a bit, and that they stay up all night and pray all night and take peyote and whatnot. But always at midnight they stop for the midnight prayer. And one of the things that George, the roadman, always says is pray without ceasing, which is biblical, somewhat Paul, which setting time aside to do it is important too. But just like you said, the quick prayer, you're just walking through and just. There's one, there's one. Pray without ceasing. Yeah. Another thing for me that it does, I don't know, it expands things just a lot for me, I guess. It expands?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I guess that's such a good way of putting it, is it just breathes some life into it.
The prompts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just because, I think he nailed it on the head. When we feel like if I'm bored with it, then surely God's bored with it.
Yeah, I would think so.
Right. And like I said, the idea of the expanding it is, like when you said, when I feel like I'm always requesting, well, the prompts lead us into other areas than just requests. Like, again, with the example of the shepherds, I wasn't asking God to lead my sons or anything. I was telling him, thank you. I started out with a praise, a I'm thanking him for putting these people in my boys' lives. Yeah. and I'm showing gratitude instead of just always asking, which is our default things.
Yeah.
You know, Lord be with so and so, Lord be with so and so, Lord be with so and so. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
You know, He still hears those, and they're not invalid prayers, but it's hard to continually pray those prayers like that. And if it bores us, then in our brain we're thinking, man, surely God's got to be bored.
Yeah. Right.
And we don't talk like. I would never talk to you that way.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Because they, on one hand, they say, you know, speak to him like you speak to a friend.
Right.
And I'm also, on one hand, I'm like, this is the creator of the universe, like all powerful. Like, I'm not just gonna be like, what's up, bro?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you are, maybe you can. I don't know.
Except that is one thing. Like that's one thing that Wes hit all the time was, in the Lord's Prayer, he uses the word Abba, which is Papa or Daddy, and he says, you know, when he says Our Father in heaven, you know, he didn't say, you know, say like the Jews will start out a prayer with, Lord God, Creator of the universe, which is what we're thinking about. You know, that He's this magnificent, omnipotent, immutable, you know. But when Jesus said, in response to a request, teach us how to pray, which is a funny thing to think about. Like, they were Jews. Yeah. You know, they were raised, you know, they're like, hey, teach us how. There was something about his prayers that they saw was different, it seemed like. And the first thing he says is, say, hey, Dad. And so I don't think it's inappropriate to think about it in terms of a relationship. You know, we don't ever want to lose that sense of He is the sovereign God of the universe, and you don't want to get haughty, and you don't want to be demanding. You know,
no, thank you.
Yeah, in when it says,
a little nervous to even think about.
What is it? Do not rush in. Do not be hasty with your words, and rush in before the throne of God. There's a pretty good warning against doing that. You know, let your words be few, kind of a thing. And I think that's another important thing is not being wordy, even though the prompts helps me find words, but I'm not being wordy. There's a difference between that. I'm not just piling empty phrase upon empty phrase. You know, we say things like, you know, put a hedge of protection, and, you know, all these Christianese
poetry
phrases that we just, you know, it's like it's almost like a mad gab, like a really bad mad gab.
Yeah, right.
I need to.
It's like the prayer thesaurus or something.
Yes, you know? Yes, exactly. So bad. Or we get all these memorized prayers, which I actually have learned is actually the Jews did a lot more memorized prayers. That's mostly what prayer was for a long time. It was recited prayers, and so I've got more respect for those recently than I usually did. I don't have any problem reciting a prayer. That like I have books on prayer that sometimes I just read those because I don't have words. Like sometimes I don't want to do I'm just not in the mood to be creative that way. But I still need something, and so I've got some books that sometimes I'll just read those, or sometimes I'll just read a psalm, and I was like, that's my prayer for today. I don't have anything else.
Do you ever just sit and rather than input, you just wait? Or I guess you're looking for the
20 minutes a week.
20 minutes a week, just
I begin my week that way.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that I'm going to be asking everybody to do, but I've started making that a regular practice. Is I'm trying to remember what book I got that from, but he recommends that. I think it was Michael Frost, Surprise the World. I think that might be where it was in, but he talks about, you know, at least once a week, you need to just at least 20 minutes. It takes 15 minutes for our brain to settle down, like we were talking about earlier. Like it's just firing and all the stimulus like that. So just find a place, no phone, like as few distractions as you can. You know, might dim lights, but turning off the lights is not a good idea because some people tend to go to sleep.
Yeah, dangerous.
But as little stimulation as possible, and just listen. And he's like, you know, after the first 15 minutes, kind of like what we were talking about our brain starts firing in a different way longer than that. But he's like, after a while, you start tuning in to the Spirit in a way like we were talking about earlier with Kilmer's book, we just don't spend enough time just listening. We got so many distractions. We're crushing candy and doing all those things that we don't listen, just being still. Like when he says, be still and know I am God. We're not still anywhere near enough. And so, yeah, I absolutely do. Every week I'll spend at the minimum, I will do once a week. I have to do it at the beginning of the week, partly just to say, what do I need to focus on this week? Is there a person, like one of my favorite things, nobody hears, I've never met anybody who hears the Lord as well as Wes. He's my absolute mentor in that, and I'm jealous of him in the way that he hears the Lord. But part of that is I know he spends a lot of time listening. And there have been crazy stories of things that, he's literally saved people's lives because he was listening. And God, he just made it a habit. If the Lord puts a person's name or face in my brain, I'm going to reach out to him. And he has literally saved people's lives. Like one guy was literally in the tub, had just slit his wrists. Like he was ending his life. And for whatever reason, even though he had already decided it was over, he picked up the phone because it was Wes.
Wow.
And then he told Wes what he had just done. Literally saved the guy's life because he was listening to the Spirit, and the Spirit said, hey, call him. And he called. He was driving somewhere.
Acted on it.
Yeah. He just made a decision to act. So he's like, man, especially after that, anytime.
Yeah.
Even
if it's a false flag,
yes, man.
I'm just taking a bath,
Yeah, right.
It's like, okay, I'm acting on what I thought I was supposed to do.
Well, he doesn't even go into it with any presuppositions. He just decides, I'm just going to call him.
Yeah.
Maybe they just needed somebody to say hi.
That one just happened to be
That one just happened
intense.
To be, crazy. So he doesn't just, it's not like every time that he's like...
It's like a TV show.
Yeah, right.
Just saving people.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's very cool, though. It's very powerful.
Yeah, and so kind of along those same lines, I just want to make sure that I spend some time just listening and not talking. And when you do that, there are some things like Lectio Divina, and there's some practices that you can do where there's rehearsed prayers that you can do. I don't do that right now. It's still a fairly new practice for me that I've engaged in, but I felt like it was really important for me to do that, especially now that I'm at the helm. I should have been doing it my whole life, but I didn't. But now I'm like, I take this leadership thing very seriously, and I don't want to lead anybody where I'm not supposed to lead them, and I have to be tapped in. And so, I do spend every week. I very intentionally spend time just listening.
It's awesome. Yeah. It's really cool. Appreciate you sharing it and talking about it.
Yeah.
Sounds like the Riverton Friends Grace Community has gotten lucky again with a new leader,
We'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Time will tell.
Yeah. All right, man. 3 hours, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Appreciate you sitting down with me.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed talking to you, learning from you. I'd love to have you back because I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about one, how do you read so many books and stuff like that, and then I can talk to you about the movies that I watch from Amazon.
Dude, that'd be hilarious. I'll drink more water so I don't cramp up.
That was wild.
Wow, dude,
that was wild.
That pop was audible.
It was. I'm gonna send you a Snapchat later when I edit this and turn up the volume.
Holy cow, dude.
Before we wrap up, do you want to give any invite people to attend your church, or do you have any events going on, or do you post any funny Instagrams?
No.
You showed me one earlier. It's freaking hilarious.
I know.
The coffee wrap.
The coffee bars.
Yeah.
No, if anybody, we're always looking, people are welcome to come always. I feel like our church is very unique in a lot of ways. Like there's a lot of really healthy churches. I think we are one of those. There's a lot of places where people struggle, and people have been burned by a lot of churches, and that breaks my heart because, for one thing, the first thing is people forget that churches are full of broken people, and broken people break people. and we're not immune from that. It's not a place where perfect people hang out. And so sometimes people do dumb things and harmful things to people. And so sometimes people leave the church because they think it's supposed to be this place where those things don't happen.
Right.
And we would like for them to not happen. We would like for people to always be taking care of people. But sometimes people have been burned and they give up on the church. And that makes me sad because I think it's a beautiful community. It's not the only place where people care for people, but it's a great place where people do. And our church it's a church that's incredibly generous, and they love people. And we don't do everything right, but we have, we're trying, and that's always been, that was one of Wes's things is we just gotta try. Since we're trying, we're trying to be faithful, and we're trying to do the best that we can. But one of my favorite things is when we changed the name. We talked with the congregation, but we didn't ask them for names. So that was gonna be a nightmare.
Yeah,
you're gonna upset people.
Yeah.
You do that way. What we did, we asked people to give us, our process was we asked people to give us 3 adjectives that describe our church. When you think about our church, what do you think of? And there were a lot of common denominators. We kind of filtered that down, and it's funny because I have to explain it all the time, which I'm happy to every time.
Yeah.
But there's no space between Grace Community. It actually was an accident, but we were like, let's leave that. We loved it because one of the things that we believe about our church is that our church is very gracious, like to a fault at times. Like there are times when I'm like,
yeah,
I think we should probably come down on that person a little bit more. Yeah, or just at least some. But if you're going to err on one side or the other, I think God would prefer that we are too gracious than not gracious enough. And the Bible talks quite a bit about that, about the measure that you use, you will be measured by, and stuff like that. So I think being more gracious is important. But one of the things that we talk about is we are a grace community because you can't have community without grace. Even if you're not calling it grace, even people who are not Christians, they're still gracious to one another. It's still grace. Like you can't have community because people are idiots. We do dumb things. We say dumb things. We're selfish and prideful, and we have things that we regret doing to one another. The only way anybody's a friend with anybody is because that other person has forgiven you for the offenses that you've done against them. So it's impossible to have community without grace. But you also can't have grace without community. You can't have grace by yourself. You can't receive it and you can't give it. Like you have to have other people in order to have grace. And so you can't separate those two. They belong together. They work together. So that's why there's no space in the name Grace Community Church of Riverton. It's because we believe that those things are inseparable.
That's awesome.
So we don't separate them. And I think our church does that well. I think we are good with community. We're not perfect. People can come in. If somebody wants to, they can come in and they can disappear and not be noticed. But that's on them, not on us. I think our church does a good job of, we're not perfect at it, but I think we do a good job of, if you want to be a part of our community, we are happy to include you and bring you in and take care of you and let you take care of us. And so I encourage anybody, but whether they come to our church, they should be in a body. Because there's a lot of health that comes from being part of a church. I don't know who says it, but faith is always personal, but it's never intended to be private. It's intended to be lived in community. It might be Chan. Wouldn't be surprised me if it's Francis Chan, but you can't really live faith in isolation. It is intended to be lived in community with other people, and like I said, you can't do grace without community.
Right. Yeah.
But I think you also can't do faith without community. It's intended to be lived. That's why God created the church, because He wants us to do it in community. So whether they come to our church or they find one that's closer to them or more their flavor, I just encourage anybody to just get plugged in somewhere. There's a lot of good places to get plugged in that'll fit them. Ours won't fit everybody.
Yeah. But I will attest, I grew up in that church, and it treated me very well through all the seasons of my life. And the community, like you said, was very accepting and loving and gracious, no matter where I was or what I was doing. They were always happy to see me. Still are, when I do show up. So it's a good place. So if you're looking for a place, I recommend at least checking it out.
Yeah, cool. And, appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah.
I look forward to the next time.
Yeah.
We'll do some more coffee. We'll do some ramen or pizza dough. All that
maybe,
stuff.
Yeah, maybe so.
That's probably the best thing is I get to go and relive this, and I'll take the notes and be like, okay, he mentioned this book. Okay, cold smoker. It's I'll go back and revisit them. So I really appreciate it, man.
Cool.
All righty, everybody. Thanks for listening. Hope you had a good one. Episode number 65. Aaron Zustiak. I always like call you Zeus, dude. That's the best ever.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed listening. What is today? If you're in the Midwest, buckle down for some cold weather, and I think it's smooth sailing into spring and summer from here. So, alrighty, love all you. Have a great week. Peace.
Sci-Fi wins.